Return of the Bunyip.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Saturday, the 19th of October, 2019. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Well, I'm still super tired.
And Robert Kemp.
Well, that was my favourite Mark Morrison song from the 90s.
I'm still super tired.
No.
Yeah, clearly.
I mean, that's the lesser-known follow-up. but Return of the Bunyip.
Not even the right rhythm.
Once again. That came up on my... The only reason it's in my head is like a stripped-back version came up on my Spotify the other day.
Oh my
Mark
god.
Morrison. Oh my god! How good is that whatever that content scanning stuff that's on YouTube and things these days? It's like we're gonna get
Where we don't upload.
Yeah, we're gonna get copyrighted for Return of the Mac impressions.
Can they actually detect anything that isn't the exact original audio, mixed into things?
That's what I mean. Like, how good has it got?
Because, that's how Shazam works, right? You can't, whistle a tune at Shazam, right? It has to be the song, right?
Oh, hang on. No, I think there are some services that are, attuned to that to some degree, because they'll know the note pattern.
I mean, I've heard of cases of people's Twitch videos getting censored because they were recording outside while they were walking down the street, and a shop happened to be playing a song as they walked past.
Oh yeah,
so they can pick it up quite
audio.
Well.
Yeah, but I'm saying
exact audio, but hella distorted at that kind of.
Yeah, but I'm saying they're good at picking it up distorted and with other things over the top, but you can't it wouldn't pick up a cover version of a song. It
probably would,
unless that was also registered. With this, as a copyrighted thing. So if you did your own cover of something, unless it was insanely close, I don't think it would pick it up.
I don't know how insanely close has to be though.
Yeah, that's the question. I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel if it's accounting for some amount of distortion and whatnot, it's kind of automatically going to allow a certain amount of failure to hit the tune if you were trying to replicate it.
Yeah, but if you're doing it, you've got a totally different voice from the singer and a totally different guitar and everything. I don't know if it's the same as a noisy version of the exact thing.
Yeah, I imagine it would have to be a somewhat recognizable melody, as in not a melody that's used in multiple places, or maybe transcription of words can factor in and things like that. So if you have just tonality, timing, and transcription.
Do you think it might be able to
figure that out?
Does it even care that it's music, or could it be any audio that you could? Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's just audio fingerprinting, and that it just happens to be used for music.
Well, presumably at some point, yeah, you're probably right. But there must be ways of if it knows it's encountering music, you could train it on the elements of musicality.
True. That's true. Yeah.
In the same way you train visual AI on visual elements, hey, these are eyes.
That would be cool, though. I would like a service where you could whistle the tune and it would say, "Oh, that's."
I could have sworn Shazam did that at one point.
Okay.
A lot of YouTubers nowadays or the kind of news reporting YouTubers are very specifically not saying certain words because apparently it can detect through voice what you're saying and get your videos demonetized.
Wait,
what? Saying what?
A variety of words.
What, like Nintendo?
No.
Because Nintendo copyright strike everyone.
It's more like cocaine and...
Oh, really?
And any other bad words.
Cocaine! So, you can't talk about Queens of the Stone Age music.
No, clearly. But if that's...
It doesn't even say cocaine, does it, in that song? It's like cocaine, isn't it? It's like cocaine.
Because that's how they were getting around it.
He's just really into his sugar.
That is an amazing song. What's it called? Feel good hit of the summer, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I saw that live.
Not quite
ages ago. Were you there? No, we were at Wireless, but it was old Wireless.
I think I was there. Yeah, I was there because that was the White Stripes year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was really good.
It was good until I got crushed by us being a bit too close to that mosh pit.
Right. Yeah.
That hurt. I don't fare well in a mosh pit these days.
No, I think those days are over. Not that they were
Did
ever
you ever
really
fare
become.
well in a mosh pit?
Well, the last time I was in
In the vicinity of a mosh pit, it's
yeah,
slightly
sure.
different.
It was it's probably a decade ago now. The last time I was in one, and my glasses got smashed. So you know.
Yeah, glasses are incompatible with mosh pits.
Yeah, completely.
I mean, most things are. I mean, Ho was in mosh pits and like would break her underwear. Like she had to throw her bra on the stage because it got snapped. Yeah,
dramatic.
Yeah. So,
well, there's not that much structural
no, that's probably
stress in a bra strap, really.
That's probably just men in a darkened environment, in fairness.
Yeah.
Like if it broke the elastic of your underwear, that would be more impressive.
Yeah, that's true.
Yay.
Anyway.
So they've nearly finished that Morrison's over the road.
Oh, yeah.
Segway.
What do you mean they've nearly finished?
What do you mean?
Well, it's existed for like 15 years at this point.
Yeah, but it's been being like refurbed for like the last 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Because they've knocked down the Foonscape.
No more bowling.
Solar
the
Bowl
isn't there.
It's gone.
Yeah,
now.
Solar Bowl, the Namco Foonscape. Don't forget the umlaut.
I still call the one in London the Foonscape, and everyone thinks I'm insane, but because we went there for it's got a rock umlaut over it for no reason.
It has to be done. It's like, why would you put that there unless there's some kind of pronunciation reason?
Because that's what it's called, the one that's in the whatever opposite, like it's near the London Eye and opposite.
Yeah, it's along that stretch, isn't it? It's
near
actually on the bridge there.
Yeah, and it's branded Namco Foonscape.
Yeah, it's the Foonscape. Anyway, that one is gone. No more bowling. At this point, you can't take Nico bowling there. It's and they've redone the road network around all that stuff, but it's like inside it's kind of weird now. But it's like they've rearranged the aisles in a fashion that I disapprove of. It's like, why are the biscuits now the furthest thing away in the supermarket? Like the biscuits and the sweet aisle.
Obesity.
I guess that's what they're going for. But like, surely the best sales tactic for biscuits is to put it near the coffee.
Yeah,
I don't think you can do that though.
But everywhere does that. That's where it normally is. It's like so. The aisle.
Yeah, they are in the Waitrose in Holloway. It's coffee on one side and biscuits on the other side of the same aisle.
On the same aisle. That's even better.
I think biscuits are meant to be in the vicinity of bread, though, right? Because they're in the bakery category.
And sort of. They're sort of in the I admit there's some crossover between cakes and biscuits, but normally it would oddly, the old Morrison's layout here, it used to be sort of like tea, coffee, then biscuits, and then tinned goods.
I guess it's because it's more like you have the two ends of the aisle. Because I think it's normally you have the bakery bread bit, which is a separate thing. But then the ends of the aisles that point towards that are like packaged bread and biscuits and like cakes. Like cakes.
Yeah, cakes.
But then on the other end of those aisles, that isn't directly adjacent to the bakery. That's where you get like coffee and whatever, I guess.
Sort of, yeah. They're either side of the bakery aisles. Yeah, you could argue. But yeah, these biscuits and sweets are miles away from anything. And like even the alcohol's nearer. Like that's the thing that gets me. It's like surely booze.
That should be in the back.
Yeah.
Where that normally goes.
But then the weird thing about the old Morrison's design actually is when you think about it, is the booze used to be like at the front, like almost at the very. You work through the veg section and you go veg booze.
Yeah. Or alternatively, veg video games.
Oh yeah, they moved that a couple of aisles down, and then their overpriced tiny selection of the hits.
I always think of that.
Well, apart from the £3 copy of Viva Pinata for PC.
It's a real pain, like, because they have stuff. Like, I go to the giant Sainsbury's that's down the road from me, but that's where I got Zelda, Link's Awakening or whatever. But, like, you go and they have the thing, but then you have to go to the service desk to actually get and it takes ages because they don't actually have the...
I think they do that at the Copdock Tesco's as well.
Yeah,
it's like, because everything can't be in the case, so it's like you've got to take it to the tech desk or whatever.
Yeah, and then wait for someone to go to the other side of the massive store to the storeroom and find it, and then
yeah, that was when I tried picking up, like when they did a deal on Soul Calibur 6 for PS4. It was like a tenner, and I'm like, oh, I'll have me some of that. So I went in, got the box, went to the counter, and they were like, yeah, we'll just get it from the back. we're out of stuff in the back. And it's like, well, get rid of the box from the shelf.
They're not
on the
going to get rid
shelf.
of the box from the shelf. Too much effort.
So annoying.
That's the whole point, isn't it? You put the boxes on the shelf to indicate you have them. Then you take the box to the person at the desk.
Yeah, but
then it's not on the shelf anymore.
It's not a 1-to-1 ratio.
It's not.
On the shelf to how much there is the story.
They go and replace it if there's stuff in the storeroom still. But that's kind of what the system is for.
It's not a good system.
It's not a good system.
Tell you what is a marginally improved system in supermarkets. So they finally solved the unexpected items in the bagging area by allowing you to push a button that says, I'm using my own bag immediately before you do anything else, and then you put it there.
Oh, yeah, then I've had that for
I
a
do
while.
that.
Yeah,
a little while.
That's like step number one.
But it used to just be like it would try and detect it automatically, and it sucked.
Yeah, it's still... You still can do that way, but yeah, most of the time it's better to just push the button and say, I have bag. But then it still goes wrong, as it did today when I was in Morrison's, and it just like, I put one bottle of squash in, fine. Beat the second bottle of squash, not fine. That's like quite a precise amount, surely. It's like 1.5 liters of squash. It should be about 1.5 kilos, right?
Well, I think the problem with that whole system is sometimes it's like the timeout is too short. Like, they really want you to get it in there fast, and if you're not putting it in there firmly, placing it directly on the scale immediately, it's like, fuck you.
Yeah, but it should know. Surely the weights of things like are in its like list, like of all the products.
That's how it will do.
It's like, so it should be this much. So like, just total the total basket at all times, rather than going like, oh, that last item didn't go in, therefore I'm going to weirdly freak out.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's other reasons to not track it by total exactly.
I mean, you've got to have a fudge factor maybe on each item. So as you put more and more in there, there's going to be more and more of a fudge applied, I guess.
The thing with that bag thing is they don't trust you. So like I obviously I know, but I've known now that someone I work with from New Zealand got confused by it, because like you can scan, if you're taking a bag, you can scan the barcode on the bag, right? And then you bought the bag, and then you put it in, and it knows the scales. But then at the end, it asks you again how many bags you've used, and if you say I used one, which you have, it's charged you twice for that bag.
Again.
Yeah, and he only realised that after ages. And of course, if you say I'm using my own bag, reuse a bag, it still asks you at the end how many bags have you used, and you're like, I've 0. God damn it! Yeah,
I haven't done that for a while.
It's still about at a couple of places. I've seen it relatively recently.
Well, the new, I mean, in Waitrose now by me, which is the fancy one, they just trust you and they don't have scales.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Honor system.
I mean, I guess they have CCTV all over.
Yeah, they probably have like more security than an average supermarket.
I guess. Well, I don't. What do you mean? I don't have to scan my claim my avocados are really onions.
Yeah, you can still do that.
I just claim they're onions. Like, I don't have to weigh them. Like, I get a precise amount of onions.
Yeah,
exactly. I think my favourite thing that has ever come out of the whole supermarket bagging self-service bagging situation is in Tesco's at their self-service checkouts. They have an advert for Tesco banking, which says unexpected value in the banking area.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
Which I'm like, okay, that's good.
That's pretty good.
That's the one good thing about this whole situation.
I've seen that. That's classy.
That's good.
Well played, Tesco. Well played. It must have been Tesco. Tesco's the only one with a bank.
Yeah, Tesco's the one who try and do everything, like mobiles.
They've changed the marked one now, but it's obviously not just me, because my mum was also annoyed by this. But as you're scanning, it will ask you sort of almost passive aggressively if you've used your loyalty card in a sort of sing song way. So it's like, have you scanned your Sparks card? And then the next till over is going, have you scanned your Sparks card? No, I haven't.
If you have a Morrison's More card, please scan it now.
Yeah. I mean, that's okay at the end, but it would do it like in the middle. I don't know. Have you scanned your Sparks card?
But you can just scan it immediately anyway and make it shut up.
I don't have one, so fuck off.
Yeah, the Morrison's tills are even weirder than that, because if you like, if you scan your Morrison's More card early, when you go to checkout, it gives you a prompt where it asks if you want it to remember the volume setting.
For who? For you?
For on my More card.
Oh, on your card.
So Except for the fact it doesn't remember that, because on plenty of the Morrison's ones really shout. They're like unexpected item in bagging area. It's really aggressive, and they're so loud. I'm just like, I'm going to mute this, and then it goes, "Oh, would you like to remember the preference for muted?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, I would." And then the next time I go to the store, it's just like, "Scan your first item now." It's like, oh well, clearly you didn't remember. This more thing doesn't work.
Like, I don't want any volumes on the talking, but I want highest volume on the beeping, so I can tell I've scanned stuff.
Yeah. It's been getting worse lately, but there was a period where it just didn't beep at all in the Tesco's I go to. It was really sucked.
Don't a lot of them have like a coloured ring around them?
Yeah, they have colour and it turns green. I guess that's okay, but beep is quite immediate. Boop feedback.
But then a lot of them are like, there's so many boops going on.
Not that hard to distinguish which one's the one directly in
Which
front
one's
of you.
your one, yeah.
Hope not.
Even while I'm wearing headphones, I can usually hear it.
But if they're all loud, then we'll get a tiny bit harder.
It's pretty great to be able to be listening to a podcast and like buy stuff without having to stop listening to
it. Maybe you should try and time your barcode swipes so you're censoring your podcast. And it's like, so I went down the boop store. And I was watching that boop film the other day, and this game is boop. Games. I did it.
Oh yeah, this is a podcast about video games, isn't it?
You got there.
Is there a film section this week?
We might be going to news, which is not going to be that much about video games, probably.
I do not have a film section because things went a little awry this last couple of weeks. We were going to go see Gemini Man, or I wanted to go see Gemini Man because it looks like my kind of dumb.
That's been flopping, hasn't it? I heard.
Has it?
Yeah,
it's an Ang Lee joint.
Massively.
It should be all right.
Yeah. Don't make me Ang Lee. You wouldn't like me when I'm Ang Lee.
But yeah, I kind of wanted to go see that, but it didn't happen. Timing didn't work out for various reasons. But I hear that Zombieland is out, so will be out next week. So it probably is out now, actually. If I remember the date correctly, so I'll go see that. Got Emma Stone in it. You should be happy.
I guess.
I guess.
Yeah. I saw the Joker movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The trailer's good.
I don't know. I just wasn't. I know. I kind of knew from the outside looking in that I probably wasn't going to enjoy it. Like,
if you like the trailer, just watch the trailer again. It's a good performance by Joaquin Phoenix, but I mean,
sure. When is it not?
I just don't think it's like it doesn't. There's some good stuff in it, but it just doesn't seem like the Joker to me.
Yeah, it's a bit too angsty.
Kind of,
is angst the right word?
He doesn't seem like he's going to be a criminal mastermind, which is kind of the point, right?
Yeah, I definitely got that vibe that it wasn't going to crack in the same way you expect him to crack.
And he's obviously the character's mentally ill or whatever, and which is portrayed really well, and like he's got this tick of like laughing uncontrollably, but it's like he doesn't really understand humor, so why it doesn't really make sense. Like the whole the thing about the Joker is he literally finds murder and mayhem funny, but if you don't have a sense of humor, then
things funny, then it's that's not how that works.
No, how does that work? So I don't really get it. But yeah, it definitely had merits, but I wasn't a big fan. I didn't hate it. Had some good stuff, but it was one of those films that's, it's like I was saying about Ad Astra last time. Like it felt like it was, it was pompous. Like it feels like it was had more to it than it really did. You know what I mean? Or had pretensions of being more serious and dealing with big themes. And in fact, there wasn't that much to it.
I mean, kudos for trying it.
Yeah, sure.
It's like it's an interesting direction to take a superhero film or supervillain film.
Somewhat interesting. I think it was verging on boring in places.
I mean,
when
like
actually watching it, but the concept,
conceptually,
I agree totally. Yeah,
but then, like in some respects, you could argue that Batman Begins was kind of the borderline of this stuff, like the slightly slower origin
Yeah.
story for the Batman,
Man,
but
The
still
Dark
being
Knight
a
was so
blockbuster
good.
in some respect as well. Kind of works.
I need to watch Batman Begins again. I've seen that for a long
good.
time.
They're all good. Well, the last one's less good as is standard, but they're all that trilogy is good.
The Dark Knight stands out though. I think.
Absolutely.
And that Joker is perfect. I don't know, pretty much.
It's kind of exactly what you want.
Yeah. Right. No news in the games world. What have we got?
A small amount.
There's some news. Do you want to start bad or start intrigue?
Is that really that much different?
Okay, intrigue.
Or are you intrigued about badness?
Okay, intriguing badness.
Intriguing bad. Or you're intrigued about badness. Okay, so that means it's the Blizzard story, I guess, because it's the baddest of the bad news of the week, I suppose.
Wagwan.
Wagwan. Well,
Banned in China.
I'm going to relate this really poorly.
Yeah, because we're not going to cover it that much anyway.
No, because it's kind of difficult.
Well, because there's not that much to even say about it, really.
Not a huge amount. It's all a lot of conjecture and like what this means for the industry as a whole. Conversation going on. There's a lot of that happening right now.
Although wait until BlizzCon, that'll be where we.
Yes, so Blizzard, right? Yeah, it's a thing. Like the situation in Hong Kong right now is a little, let's say, politically sensitive. And so when a Hearthstone tournament took place, was it actually in Hong Kong? The tournament?
No,
I think it was a Chinese stream at least.
Okay. Yeah, well, it was taking place over there, like an Asian tournament, and the winner of the event went on to the stream in the post-match interview, basically just straight up said "Free Hong Kong" and all of the rhetoric behind it. Was he? I think he had the goggles and gas masks look as well. So he was.
Had he just won the tournament, right?
He just won, yeah. And this was the post-match interview. And so Blizzard responded to this by banning him for a year from future tournaments and revoked his winner status, basically, and took away his prize money. Or didn't pay him, I suppose, rather than took away. And it's
heavy-handed.
Well, yeah, and also given the climate, that's a statement, right? That's
They must have known
immediately seen as hey, you can't do this, you can't be political.
Was there some kind of clause that he'd signed up to not say anything political or something?
So there is and there isn't a part of it that is sort of legal, and so this is basically the only way that Blizzard themselves have actually really responded. The sort of clause has some that in question has some stuff about hey, you shouldn't bring Blizzard into disrepute. Or disrepute, I think was the word. Is that even? That's a bit of a strange word.
Disrepute, it must be, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw it going around as disrepute for some reason. It's like that seems wrong. You can't bring it into disrepute. You can't support causes that are damaging to Blizzard potentially, and this is like a global clause. This is not like an Asian specific thing. And they're sort of, or anything that incites harm or on others and that kind of stuff. It's one of those sort of vague clauses.
And it's sort of standard like media interview clauses, probably, where it's like, don't say something completely ridiculous live in front of this stream that's controlled by a certain company.
Yeah, especially because Blizzard likes to control its own esports stuff, right? So it's being broadcast by Blizzard, effectively. So they're like, whoa, hang on, we're going to get in trouble for something on our channel. Couple this with the fact that Activision Blizzard are 10% owned by Tencent, a Chinese company.
I mean, that's not that important, but what's more important is they want to make a shit ton of money out of China.
In China, yeah.
Particularly as Diablo Mobile is practically China targeted.
Yeah, and, let's not be honest. Let's be honest here. The Chinese government are heavy-handed when it comes to anything that potentially targets them or puts them in a bad light. They just drop the ban hammer and be like, "Well, fine, you can't be in our country. You can't do this." And so their response and their reaction and and all of this feels like a statement of support for the Chinese government to many, which, given the current climate, is probably a terrible thing to be seen to be doing, and it's super awkward for everyone involved. And it's hard to know what the right thing was to do, whether to leave him alone and just say that was his views. Like the views expressed by the contestants do not necessarily represent Blizzard as a company, and all that.
That is the standard response, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
you
don't necessarily have to do any actual punishment. You just have to distance yourself from the statement, and that's enough usually.
You kinda like just like it's odd, basically. Yeah, it's put a. And it's had quite the reaction online with lots of boycotting. They apparently, so there's a follow-up situation where basically a load of people started deleting their Blizzard accounts,
right?
And then it appeared that people could no longer delete their Blizzard accounts. So that was initially seen as, oh, hey, like Blizzard have deliberately stopped you from being able to do this for a while.
Yeah.
When in actual fact, apparently, like it's come out that it's like, no, the servers they use for actually handling account deletion, it's not something they do that much, so there isn't much bandwidth associated to that process. So the servers collapsed.
Couldn't handle the load of people.
Couldn't handle the load of deletions. Yeah. But still, that's a representation, I suppose, of the number of people that are actually like outraged by this, and the number of, and what it means, I suppose, to the Blizzard fan base.
It's so weird, isn't it? And Activision Blizzard is this huge company now. It's not like Blizzard's like a small developer. It's like a huge deal.
It's one of the richest publishers in the world. It's
exactly. And they've been trying to make money in China ever since, like, what do you think Mists of Pandaria was all about with all those pandas? I mean, like, it's like, yeah. I mean, it's like a symptom of a larger thing. Like, there's been this, have you seen, I haven't seen it yet, but there's a new South Park about it, right? Where it's like American companies, big ones, are like kowtowing to Chinese censorship, basically, in order to make money in China. But it's such a massive market.
Which is what literally happened with like the NBA.
Because it's the NBA thing. Like that's come up so much as a result of this. Because but in fairness, didn't the NBA turn like instead of supporting, effectively going along with it, the NBA turned around and were like, no, with the NBA, we believe in free speech.
I don't think they did.
Really? No, I thought that was where it ended. They like that was the start.
Or maybe the NBA did. Like the specific teams in question, I don't think have changed their stance.
Okay.
Last I heard, anyway. Who knows what the NBA has been saying? That's not really our area of this news.
No, I can't remember what the story was for that.
It was a manager of a team made a tweet about Hong Kong, which was not anything to do with the Hearthstone thing. It was just coincidentally timed.
Right.
But he made this tweet, and then the NBA, like China, started being like, we're going to kick out the NBA from China if you keep doing this. And then various people were like, retract that statement, or don't retract that statement, or through other parts of the NBA.
Yeah. I thought I heard that the NBA actually were all like, hey, this is just how we do things in America. Like, we're sticking to that.
I'm sure people would like it if they said that.
But it's going to happen with so many big companies and entertainment, like, because China's just such a big market. It's like, it's interesting
it's seen as too big. Like, it's not because it's the biggest market on the planet. It's because it's a big market and it's a growth market in almost every sector.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, that's why pretty much up to this point, you just keep the China part of your business separate from everywhere else.
Well,
that's been the solution to this problem up to now.
Exactly. That's why things like Call of Duty Mobile and stuff previously the free, not Call of Duty Mobile, like why the free Call of Duty, the free to play one was launched and only launched in China. And there was that free Halo at one point.
Yeah.
That was like a China specific thing because the free to play model there is king.
Yeah.
And it's or why back in the day you used to play all those Korean RPGs, right? Because like in Korea, like the weird free-to-play RPGs are king.
Not quite the same.
It's not quite that anymore, but no. Or even then maybe. But Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like those games were targeted at the market, the Korean RPGs. So it's like there was a whole game for them, but they're like these are like adaptations of other things. Like the Rainbow Six Siege is the current famous one, where they were going to get rid of any elements of gambling or hints of gambling from the game in order to appease the Chinese market. So they were like one-armed bandit machines and things on some levels, and they were like, "Well, we're going to take these out because otherwise we can't operate in China." To which the community were like, "Whoa, it's kind of a bit of a weird one in a way because it's just like, oh, hey, this is just set dressing for." Does anyone really care about the set dressing in a competitive shooter game?
But surely the idea of that was it wouldn't have made any difference to those people who were complaining about it anyway.
No, exactly. It really doesn't make a huge amount of difference. But they did kick up a fuss, and Ubisoft did listen, and they were like, "Well, no, that's fine. Okay, we will do the run a whole separate version in China thing then."
So they were implying that the patch was going to affect everyone.
It was going to be a global patch, yeah, and then they sort of reverted on that, and we're like, "No, it's fine. We'll run a separate. We'll run a China branch."
You think in that kind of situation, and like thinking about Rainbow Six specifically. I mean, it's a hitbox. You just need to invent something else that fits in the same hitbox, right?
Sure.
And just have the model change depending on whether you're in China or not.
But it's the concept of censorship affecting people where that subject isn't censored. That is.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. You would have to censor it then. If it's a different model that only appears in the Chinese version, but it's the exact same hitbox, so the gameplay is not affected.
And I'm pretty sure that's what they did.
Right.
Like, in the end. But
that's not actually... But censorship isn't affecting the people who are complaining about it in that situation then.
But it was going to. It was going to be global, because I don't think Ubisoft wanted to run this multi-branched bit of software. They wanted it to be a global bit of software. And, as a developer, I can understand that perspective. Hell, you want to keep your branches down. It's a pain in the ass.
Sure. It seems like if it's only a model change, that would be one of the easiest ones to keep track of. It's not like a code change.
I mean, it'll be an asset change, right? It'll be not the right term, but an asset flip.
But it's not like several other games haven't released completely separate Chinese versions before.
No. But that definitely does exist. But I can see why you'd want to avoid it if you could.
But now we're in a situation where, I guess, like, I don't know if it is because of some kind of like lessening restrictions in China or just like people are just trying to force it. But like now you're getting the situation where like I guess more stuff is trying to get into China faster, and it's like we can't be bothered with all this fucking around to make it suitable for China. We just want to bring our thing to China.
Yeah.
So now you're going to run into this a lot more.
So let's make the thing China happy in the first place. Yeah. That Diablo mobile game will probably not have gambling in it.
Whatever that would mean for Diablo.
Who knows?
So this particular Blizzard thing does seem to be like they screwed up a bit by like doing it really indelicately or whatever, but it's definitely part of a broader trend, right? I mean, things are not getting better with regards to China. It seems to be getting worse. And you see these Hong Kong protests; they're not going away.
Yeah. I don't know quite what the word I'm looking for is, but let's use the people's opinion of the people of Hong Kong versus that of business are at odds right now, and it's and it's starting to cause rifts around for the rest of us.
Apparently, like I can't remember obviously off the top of my head the statistics because I don't have memory for that sort of thing. But I think one of the reasons why Hong Kong was left alone in when it became a special administrative region when it was taken over from Britain in like 1997, I think at the time they left it alone partially because it was like worth like 1/5 of the Chinese economy because it was such a incredibly important economic center in the world. Sure. But now it's like 1/40th or something. Like something drastic has happened in the past 20 years.
The manufacturing and the tech industry of China has kind of exploded elsewhere.
Yeah, so it's
Shenzhen,
like
it's Shenzhen.
Well, Shenzhen is just across the bay, isn't it? Is Shenzhen the one
China.
That's in the same area? Yeah. But that's what I mean is it's like a twin city to Hong Kong and Guangzhou. And Macau. Macau's a special administrative region, isn't it, as well? That's across there. Anyway, I get confused with Macau. But yeah, I think it's not as important to the Chinese economy as it was by any long shot. So they're much more bullshit about
controlling it again.
Bullshit. Yeah. That's one maybe
bringing
not
it
the
into
right word.
line.
Yeah,
bold, forceful, intentful. That's forgiving.
Taiwan number one.
Yeah, it's a weird situation, and it's like the frustrating part is it's created a little bit of a doorway for, as other publishers tend to do on occasion, for them to. Well, let me reword that entire sentence. That was garbage. It's opened up a bit of a door for other publishers to try and cash in on the misfortune of others. By sort of saying, we wouldn't do this, and it's kind of like a non-statement kind of thing, because it's like, well, it hasn't affected you yet, and it's like it's weird to hear come, especially Riot. Yeah. Riot said this as well, and Riot aren't exactly in a great position in terms of their like worker culture and things like that. They're in the news for bad reasons relatively frequently, and they just come up, we wouldn't do that. Like it's like saying, okay, well, this just sounds like you being shady again, like and doing it because it's a PR move, not because that's an actual belief of yours.
It's all PR moves.
No, of course it is, but it's like,
I think it's kind of going away from the gaming, but just the China thing in general. Like the fact that Google, like one of the biggest, the biggest company in the world at the time, I think. In terms of stock market valuation, like obviously that was a growth market for them would be China, and they did try, and then they come up against all the censorship stuff, and in the end they were like, oh fuck it, this isn't worth it, because like the whole point of us is to make information freely available to everyone easily, and because they're going against it, we'll just give up. And I don't think they have a presence in China really. It's Baidu or whatever, isn't it? They've got their own Google, so Google is just not in China, which is pretty cool if you think about it.
In the same way Facebook and Twitter aren't huge in China, are they?
No.
Weibo.
Yeah, well, they've got their own domestic censored versions of everything.
Yeah.
Apparently it was, I mean, it's seriously impressive technologically. I mean, from my point of view as a programmer, how fast South Park disappeared from all platforms in China. After they aired that episode. Because the episode was called BAND, Banned in China. That was the name of the episode.
Right.
And after airing it, apparently it's just gone. There's no mention of South Park anywhere on the Chinese internet, which is pretty impressive that they can scrub it so well.
I assume it's been enough years now that it's a bit like how GDPR should be, right? And that it's like it's in this country, and that it's so mandated, and it's been there for such a long time that like everyone's just got that system built in now.
Yeah, ready to
probably
just remove all references to something.
It'll be because it'll be a government requirement.
So
your system needs to support this.
And that's why everyone's now trying to ingeniously, all the pissed off people are trying to make the Overwatch character a symbol for the Hong Kong protest, because she's kind of vaguely similar in design, and you just stick a gas mask on there. So they're like, let's just get Overwatch banned in China by doing this, and that will fuck up Blizzard real good.
That's kind of amazing. All right.
What does she look like with a gas mask on?
Well,
she's like the ice character.
Oh, I see. And she looks like a protester type thing.
Yeah.
Well, there's a firefighter skin for her, so like it wouldn't be a far cry from that to put the mask on.
Yeah, and she also is, I guess, vaguely Asian-y designed, even though she's like an Eskimo or whatever.
She speaks Chinese.
Oh yeah, she does actually. Yeah, I remember. But yeah,
so she's a Chinese ice Eskimo. Okay,
I guess
pretty much. Yeah.
In the world of Overwatch, who knows what the actual lore of that is?
Everything's hugely twisted in Overwatch, but it's.
But anyway,
if anyone was going to complain about cultural appropriation, maybe people should look at Overwatch. I don't know.
Yeah. But I guess she is out of the Overwatch cast the most Chinese-looking character, so I guess it makes the most sense.
She's the Chinese character, so and she dresses up. She has traditional wear for. Because they do
the holidays,
Chinese New Year, don't they, in Overwatch? So it's like she's got all the traditional garb as skins as well. Although a lot of the characters do now, in fairness, because they kind of just spread it about. But she's the one that kicked it off. Like it was her thing.
Yeah, we'll try and get Overwatch banned in China.
Man, I haven't played Overwatch in ages. This is making me want to play Overwatch,
Mm-hmm.
despite the fact that it's like I kind of feel like I should stand against it to some degree. But
Yeah, don't give Blizzard your time.
I mean, I'm not giving them my money at least.
Well, true, I guess, if you don't buy any loot boxes.
No, I'm not going to buy a loot box.
Isn't there Fortnite news this week? Or...
Well, I mean, they've
Fortnite
just done
2.
another update to Fortnite.
Right.
It's a slightly more important one because they've basically started a fresh map after
They've got a new map.
continuously fucked up the previous map so much.
But that was kind of the point. That was the exciting thing about it.
Well, sure, and they're going to continue doing that on this new map. So it's like, I don't think it's
so the first map is now settled. Is that right? This is the final state. Is that what you mean? Like,
no, I think it's gone. It's more like
gone.
It's more like World of Warcraft, where they just got rid of the whole map and just started because they fucked up that map so much at this point. I think with all their weird meteor strikes and whatnot, they were just like, okay, now we're going to start clean and fresh and just have a nice new map. Also, the new map is designed for new mechanics like boats, so there's more water.
Huh. Weird.
But it's just a new map. It's not that.
So they're not even have the option to.
I don't know specifically if the old map is available somewhere in some mode. But...
So it feels so weird, like that Fortnite has progressed so fast that there might actually be a cry for a classic Fortnite.
I'm sure they'll happily bring that map back at some point. But I'm sure they don't want. I'm sure they don't want the new map being distracted from at this current moment.
Sure,
they want everyone on that map.
Weird, yeah. Bit heavy-handed. I know Apex launched its second map, but it's like a choice or something. It's. And I should check in with that really, see what's going on there.
It's not. It's not unusual for a battle royale game to get a new map and then it be a big deal. Basically, all the other ones have done that, like PUBG and all the rest. They've all had their new maps at some point. It's just that Fortnite didn't seem like it was going to because it was constantly updating that one map.
Yeah, well, that was kind of its thing. But if they're forcing everyone across, then it's still kind of its thing, yeah. I suppose.
It's just, basically exactly the same thing.
It's just a really big change. Yeah, it's interesting. Much as I kind of... I don't think I'll ever enjoy Fortnite. The building stuff just looks baffling to me. But it's just it's a fascinating thing still to watch from the outside in. To be like, what is going on now? How is this a thing? Lady Gaga doesn't know what Fortnite is, so but she's heard of it. So that's that, I suppose.
I guess.
Let's get positive. Let's talk about PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's much to say about this, though. It's like, can you get positive about this much news?
Well, it's officially the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, I guess that is the positive news. It's like
they're not going to break that now, are they? I mean, they were threatening to do it before, I guess.
Well, yeah. It's like the last 2 or maybe even 3 times we've been worried about whether they're going to, and then they're just like, no, stick a number on there.
I suppose there's still no real definite end to the consoles, right? They're not going to turn around and call it the last PlayStation.
Well, and I mean the previous generation, they tried to say that they were like, this is going to be, we're not going to make any new consoles, we're just going to update these ones. It's like, no,
that's kind of the cycle we're in now, right? Because they're all going to be like super backwards compatible anyway. They just need a cut-off point at some point for for the games to be like, hey, this game needs more powerful hardware in order to run.
Yeah.
That's the only reason they're not doing like a Pro 2, really. It's just like we need a PS5 because developers are kind of already targeting the Pro as the platform.
Even though they weren't meant to.
Yeah. It's like there's enough reports of I mean, it's not hugely bad. It's not as bad as like those new 3DS games that ran like garbage on the regular 3DS. Like was it Dynasty, the Hyrule Warriors? That's like the one supposedly that was like super bad. But I can kind of see the argument. It's like, oh hey, the lesser platforms aren't the target platform, so they get the cutbacks. But it's not been that bad, right? It's not been that bad. I'm still using my original Xbox, and it's like there are games that have problems here and there, but I don't honestly know if those games wouldn't have those problems elsewhere.
Right.
And it's so yeah, I can understand why they want to do another hard cut to be like, hey, stuff's more powerful, games target this now, but everything will be back to pat. Everything, like, it's just the way the way these are made now.
Again,
yeah,
we're not 100% sure about that yet.
I mean, from what so the bulk of this like story was kind of mostly focused on the controller, which they still haven't shown officially.
But it's probably not going to be a boomerang.
It's not going to be a boomerang. And the one that the report, this Wired article again describes is basically like it's a PS4 controller in look.
Of course.
Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that design. The PS4 controller is nice. Don't mind it not changing all that much. But it does, in theory, mean that it's got all the functionality of the old one, which makes sense for backwards compatibility. But the big thing they're talking about changing is taking out rumble to replace it with haptic motors or some kind of haptic feedback system. And that seems to be a multifaceted thing, from changing trigger resistances to potentially changing stick feedback and response times and some other language that seems a little hard to comprehend at times. But, the resistance and the triggers thing seems like a fairly nice... Or, that's something you can understand, right? That it can get stronger and weaker.
That's kind of a cool idea. It's just trying to think, is it a gimmick? Like, is it one of those things...
it totally is, right? Because that's the thing with all of this. It's like...
trying to innovate, but like...
Yeah, like how much does the controller really make a difference? How much does it sell the system? It doesn't really, unless you're the Wii. It's... like the thing that's going to sell the system is like, oh hey, look what it can do. Like look at what you're going to be playing. Look at the games. Look at how pretty this looks. Talking just about, oh hey, we made the controller a little nicer in your hands. It's not what sells systems, and it's like so. This in some ways, it's like I think this approach to just talk about it subtly in an article and then perhaps leaving them space to just focus on games later.
Well, I don't think they were really ready to talk about it at all, is the main thing.
Well,
some leaks happened and then they were like, we got to say something.
No, it's a perfectly planned Wired article. The leaks that have happened have been like patents and that weird... Have you seen that weird V-shaped console patent that came out or something?
Well, I saw a version... I don't know if it was a render or whatever, but a design of the PS5 that was like U-shaped.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. Yeah, the weird sort of like gully down the middle. Yeah. And it's like, basically it came from a patent document or something, and then someone rendered it like as they do these days.
As they do.
Like they take that and be like, oh, let's conceptualize what this actually looks like.
I'm sure
it won't be that. It will be a black box. Come on,
it can have a U shape in the black box. That'd be fine.
Ugh.
I mean, that might be better for like cooling or whatever. If it's got like a U-shaped, like more vents.
Oh, what you reckon?
A higher surface area for vents.
Spit out into the middle or something.
Or suck it into the middle, maybe.
Weird, yeah.
That's a reason that I could think of for it to be a weird shape.
Well, I hope these first-gen PS5s don't sound like jet engines, because that was a real problem for early PS4s. Whereas Microsoft went so hard on cooling this gen.
Yeah,
but all their Xboxes are pretty quiet.
I don't think weird shapes in it. I think you always want to start putting weird shapes in for more specific purposes again. Like, fuck it, just like make the PSVR part of the system and just have it like dock into the top of the box.
Oh wow, okay, that'd be kind of inconvenient for keeping the box like in a nice entertainment system for those that don't have PS4.
You've got like a double height of your PS4 that you could still fit like a VR headset on top of it.
Well, it might just fit in my setup right now, but like those the bands over the top of the PS4 headsets and things like that might get in the way. Like
if they're solid, not like flexible.
The halo of the set might be a problem.
Yeah.
But I don't unless it's like a controller dock built in.
Or just like, or not even necessarily a dock. It could be like a wireless, like inductive pad.
Like a QI pad.
Just put your controller there, and it inductively charges it.
Also, what is that tech? Is it QI charging or is it Qi charging? I couldn't quite. There's that name for that wireless
tech.
Is it Qi? I think it might be Qi.
Yeah.
Qi charge. Kai charge.
But yeah, it doesn't. matter what the box looks like again. As always, that's the thing. Everyone worries about what the box is going to look like, and up to this point, they have all just been black boxes.
Yeah.
So it hasn't mattered.
I
But
mean,
even if it was weird, I don't think it would matter that much.
I mean, the design of this generation of consoles hasn't exactly been epic, has it? It's not been particularly. They're not been lookers.
Yeah, but no one wanted that though, right?
Well, no, but then everyone complained about the Xbox when it came out, but it's a big black slab, and it's like, look, the PS4 Pro is not that much different from the original Xbox. It's a big black slab.
They only complained about it because they wanted the dumb curve of the 360.
Oh right, yeah, they wanted the inhale back.
Yep. And they wanted it to stand vertically. Well,
it can't it? Or maybe the original can't. I don't know.
I don't know. I think it has vents on both ends, doesn't it?
Yeah, it might. But then that X is so sleek. It's so tiny. The X is a nice looking console, as we said. Wait, even though it is another black slab, it's a smaller black slab. Does everyone want everything to look like, I don't know, colourful Wii U's or whatever or Wii's with their neon blue disc trays? Or
I don't know. Bring back faceplates. You can put whatever the fuck you want on there.
Yeah, we're back in the age of the Nokia 3210 again. Everything have faceplates. Yeah, everyone wants that wood teak, right?
Atari 2600.
Yeah. What do you mean? Just go all out and just have it so every panel can be replaced?
Well, sure. I mean,
but then they won't be able to sell skinned versions of the consoles.
Yeah, but the panels are the skins. You sell those.
Or you buy the skinned limited edition console and then just sell the skin for megabucks on eBay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. Or you just sell the skins separately for more than a regular faceplate. Like if you want that, if you want the Death Stranding PS4, but it's actually just faceplates, but it still costs as much as like way more than the regular faceplates would.
Sure. Then you have to buy some boring ass faceplates for your spare PS4 or PS5. All this means is that we're getting near that time. New console time, boys.
Is that the end of the next E3, do you think? Or is it one more after that?
I think we're going to hear about the consoles before E3.
Well, in Sony's case, they might not be going to E3 anyway, so that, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Sony probably aren't going to go to E3. And I reckon we're looking at March to Easter kind of range. Well, Easter is in March generally, but that's sort of Easter-ish timing for the announcements, like the Microsoft blowout and stuff like that. My gut feeling. I think that's when it's going to happen. When the hype train's going to start.
So when are they going to? Do you think
it's going to be after the main Sony, the last of the main Sony releases, right?
But it's going to be after everything that got delayed comes out in March.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like this is enough of a win. This is the point where it's like, hey, we haven't got anything else coming except for a whole new console.
Do you think they'll start comparing ray tracing pipelines or something? I mean,
well, yeah,
RTX on.
this did come out of the this was in that Wired article as well. Right. There is hardware ray tracing support of some kind,
right,
in the PS5.
And like
because it was the question before. Yeah, the SSD is the and the pipeline streaming for the SSD is a big deal for this gen, and that's on both machines because Microsoft has sort of come out and said in the little bits of information we've had about Scarlett that it's going to have a ridiculous hard drive pipeline of its own.
Yeah.
So that they'll be fighting on that front. But yeah, they had mentioned on the PlayStation side that there was some form of ray tracing in there. But the question remained whether it was hardware or some kind of software-driven thing. But no, this is confirmation that whatever AMD chipset they're putting into this thing is going to be hardware ray tracing capable. Because they were talking, was it Sony that were talking about it for sound, like sound ray tracing to simulate proper reverb and things like that? Which to me is almost cooler in some respects. I want to hear what that sounds like.
Yeah. when the sort of something bounces off the walls and
and it's dependent on the shape of the room and things like that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Not as universally not as good to universally transmit to the player, because that depends on your sound setup. And like a TV is a TV, it just transmits light to your eyes, whereas sound setups are much more varied in general.
I suppose you're right. There aren't many. I mean, how many people do you really know that actually have full-on surround sound setups? Right? They're like most people have just the TV, right? They don't bother attaching any kind of external sound system to it. The ones that are a little bit interesting get a sound bar these days.
Yeah.
Which, in fairness, some of them are all right, as Dan has attested to.
Yeah, my one I really like.
Some of them are not. Or you go the one step further, and then get a full-on surround setup. But still, it's like, that's the minority. The minority of people are going to have the full-on surround setup. It's like, do you use your ray tracing for sound? Probably not. You're going to prefer visuals because everyone can see.
Yeah.
Unless you're making a game specifically for those that can't see.
Not everyone can see, although.
Not everyone can see. PlayStation 5.
It's coming. And the gauntlet is thrown for the naming of the next Xbox because it has to be a stupid name.
It kind of does, doesn't it? It's like, and I reckon they might pull an Apple and just call it the Xbox.
The Xbox.
But didn't we say that last time though?
And then it will just be like. But then I think they need the same sort of cut point, don't they? For like, hey, this game's not going to run on the old Xboxes. It's
going to be fucking Xbox 2 at this point.
No, it's not going to be 2. Because 1 was a stupid conceptual name anyway.
That's not going to stop them.
361. Combine the two. It's the Winamp thing, right? Where they took Winamp 2 and Winamp 3 and thought, we'll take the best of both of these and we'll make Winamp 5. We'll take the Xbox One, we'll take the Xbox 360, we'll combine the two best things about them, and we'll create the Xbox 361 X. Xbox 361 X.
I've actually forgotten what came after Battlefield 1, as in
5.
5. Okay, there you go. Xbox 5.
Well, no, the Xbox 365. We'll go back to the year. That whole idea that people were saying about the 360.
Xbox 24/7.
Yeah, exactly.
Xbox Kmart. Xbox McDonald's. We're here for you. Eat fresh. No, wait, that's Subway.
There's like 3 different brands that you just mashed together.
That'll do.
Eat fresh.
And, well, that's it for news, is it not?
Well, Pokemon has been ramping up because their release is coming. And,
what's going on?
Still pissed. They did a very weird, which like popped up on my YouTube. They did a very weird 24-hour stream of nothing. It's literally it's not. I wouldn't say it's a static shot, but it's a like.
Was it just Surfetch standing there dancing?
Might as well. Well, not even that cool. It was like not a static shot, but more like a several second loop of a forest scene. And that was mostly what was up for 24 hours. But then occasionally, just like a random Pokemon would appear, and you'd be like, "Oh, it's maybe an old one," and then occasionally a new one. And then it's just like, "Oh, we've learned about Galarian form Ponyta," and it's like, "Wow, okay, you could have done that in not 24 hours of goddamn pointless footage."
They wanted to do the same thing that like, what was it, Fallout 76 did, where they had their 24-hour stream or something, where random members of staff would wander by and do stuff to the stream.
That was maybe slightly more. That was almost ARG-esque, whereas this was just like really pointless bullshit.
Yeah.
24 hours of nothing. And also, because it was YouTube, it's just like, you just move your mouse along the scrub bar and look at the thumbnail and find out when anything happened.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Just like, don't worry about it being... Because even live, it will still do that. I don't mean if it was archived afterwards, you could do that. Even on a live stream, you can still see the thumbnails on YouTube. So I just I looked in and it was like it'd already been going on for like 3 hours. And I was like, did anything happen? Not really.
Well, I suppose the thumbnail, you might, if it was a fleeting glimpse, you might have missed.
Yeah,
it.
the longer the stream got, the less likely you were be able to see it by scrubbing.
Yeah,
I guess. But yeah, that was very uninteresting. Which maybe that tells you something about the games. I don't know. And the most recent news is they've just done another video of like, here's some new Gigantamax forms of various Pokemon, which are. And what's mainly pissing everyone off about
forms? What, don't they just get big?
No, the Gigantamax is different from Dynamax. Remember, the Gigantamax is the one where they look different as well.
Right. Yes. Okay.
But
Dynamax.
That's been pissing everyone off because the ones that they showed are all like Generation 1 Pokemon. So it's like,
Okay.
where are all the new ones? Show us something new. It's goddamn Charizard again, gets another form.
He has a lot now.
Yes, because he already had Mega Evolutions as well. And Z moves and all that other crap, which they've got rid of now.
Oh, well, it's okay, so there is no Z moves at all now.
They're getting rid of everything that's not Dynamax. So there's no Mega Evolutions, no Z moves, no Giga. No, there was another one. I forget what the third other type of evolution they had before this was.
Sleeping.
But the new ones that they revealed are. It's like somewhere in the Pokemon company, someone likes memes, I guess.
Oh man!
Because you've got Fat Pikachu, which is basically a take on like the original Pikachu sprite from like Red and Blue, where it was all chubby.
Right. Yeah.
So Gigantamax Pikachu is just Fat Pikachu.
That's kind of funny.
And Gigantamax Meowth is just Longcat.
Oh,
he just gets really long. It's just like, what? Why?
Longcat versus Tacno.
Yeah, it's like, why would you do that?
There is like a black cat like Pokemon as well, isn't there? Like,
the one with the curly tail.
Okay, so he better get long as well.
Clammeow?
Clammeow?
Doesn't sound right. Clammeow, I guess.
Clammeow. Clammy Owl?
No, with a G.
Oh, Clammigliglow.
No, at the start. Glammeow.
Glammeow. Okay. No.
Like it's
Glam Rock Owl.
Yes. But yeah, it's just Longcat. It's just like, what? Why?
But now we can have Glammy Owl Tacnol.
Someone who worked at the Pokemon company was on the internet in 2006.
Not even right. Longcat. Oh, I suppose Longcat would have predated.
Slightly.
Yeah.
Slightly earlier.
2003, maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, people are continuing. And apparently some people have now played it. We're getting close enough to launch that.
Well, yeah, it was at EGX.
Yeah, that too.
So people are playing it.
So enough events have happened that people have started playing it. And yeah, people are still not that enthused. In general. So, apparently the tree textures are still bad.
Yeah, it didn't look any different from what we've seen before.
So who knows what will happen with that? It will probably do just fine.
It's a Pokemon game. It will do just fine. Switches will be sold off the back of this game, whether it be bad or good. Look out for the next one.
Yeah, well, that's
Pokemon Sword.
That is
X,
now that
X
the third version of this one,
Ultra Sword.
Yeah, people have been thinking about that already, but then
Armor. It'll be Armored Edition. It'll be like that.
I'm pretty sure we've made that.
It'll be like that Batman, won't it?
But people are already saying, like, the first Pokemon game on a new system is always bad. Just look at Diamond and Pearl and how it used like weird 2D sprites in the half 3D world, and it was just like a half step. So maybe the next game after this one, they'll actually do a good one on the Switch.
I guess, but we're like nearly 3 years into the Switch now.
It's only their first game.
Yeah. It makes me wonder if they'll actually pull it together to make another Pokemon game in time.
Well, I mean, they still do have to get the third version out, so
yeah. Pokemon Stars. That'll actually come to be.
Yeah, that'll actually happen.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the underlying thing that everyone's pissed off about. How it's still Pokemon and also
it's still Pokemon, everyone.
And like less Pokemon than previously.
Yeah. Less number of Pokemon, right?
Well, less number of Pokemon and just like a general feeling that this might be kind of a feature lacking game. They've gone for like expanse rather than content, probably.
Well, I don't understand that.
Simplification isn't always a bad thing.
Yeah, but Pokemon was already simple. That's been the whole problem, isn't it?
Well, they had Pokemon Go for the most simple, I suppose.
Yeah.
But surely they don't have any like financial restrictions on like, making content for Pokemon games. Must make a boatload
who
of
knows?
money.
I think that,
Yeah.
but like supposedly that like the Game Freak maybe doesn't make that much money overall somehow, even though Pokemon is so big.
Well, Game Freak themselves might not make the money, but maybe like whoever the Pokemon company probably makes an absolute bucket load.
Well,
right?
sure,
So
they're
it'll
all
be-
their other marketing that's not games.
Yeah,
Right, yeah. Okay, fair enough.
but Game Freak are effectively just a ridiculously contracted developer in all this, right? They're not owned by a Pokemon company, or are they? I don't know.
I
Did,
don't
did
know.
they come up with the IP for Pokemon, or were they just a developer of Red and Blue?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what that relationship is.
What is the relationship between Game Freak, the Pokemon company, and Nintendo?
They just put their shit out on Nintendo systems, I guess.
Right, so there is
It's
no
like-
Nintendo stake in Pokemon, is there? I thought there was.
Yeah, I think there is, but not only on maybe on the game side.
Right.
Like, I think there's some deal there to stop them. Because here's the thing: Game Freak put out games on other platforms.
Yeah, occasionally.
Tembo the Badass Elephant is a Game Freak joint.
Right.
It's weird, isn't it? And that's on Xbox and PlayStation and PC.
And then you've got Pokemon games that aren't like Pokemon Go, Niantic, and whatever.
Sure, that's clearly not it's not
Nintendo
developed
thing.
by Game Freak, and I'm not. Yeah, I don't know if Nintendo's even mentioned in that thing. Yeah, so I wonder if there's some splitting of roles now. Well, always has been. I don't imagine it's changed too much.
One day there'll be a Breath of the Pokemon, but not this one.
Oh yeah, and the other thing,
Ghastly of the Pokemon.
the other thing that everyone was annoyed about is they've now very much confirmed that there's the old 2-game split system going on. Sirfetch'd is only sword and Galarian Ponyta is only shield, and the gyms
standard.
are different in both games.
No, you know you're going to get sword then. They're fetched, man.
Yeah, I guess.
Legendary. Top tier. Better have good stats.
Probably doesn't, since it's an evolution of Farfetch'd, a normal type. They always suck.
Normal.
I'm pretty sure it was normal. It wasn't actually flying, was it? Because it was,
Because it was always holding on to that leak.
yeah.
The leak, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was normal originally.
Could he
Although I
fly
don't know
with-
what
no.
it got dual typed into in the dual type age. Maybe normal
Probably
fly.
flying, yeah.
Any triple types?
Oh god, don't even say that now. That would be like, if we're going to make Pokemon even like add any mechanics, don't just add another fucking type on top of the 2 that you already
You
have.
could have a minor type as a third type that's like not quite as impactful but has a little.
Yeah, but that's what the dual type system already was.
Is it
Like
supposed to be
major,
primary,
minor.
secondary, or are they like?
Well, it's because if you have opposing types on the same Pokemon, it cancels out the super effective of both, but then also like negates the attack bonus you get from using that type of move or whatever.
No, right. So they
Is it
effectively
like
just
it-
become normal,
Sort of.
sort of, or like no types.
Or well, it's more like they get normal hits instead of super effective hits, but not double super effective hits if you get the double weakness or whatever.
Okay.
It's like it already had that stacking of the two types actually making a difference, not just
Right. So certain attacks could be super
4 times effective, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super ultra effective.
Yeah.
Did they have a name for that, or they just?
No, I don't think they did. I think they just said it was super
double
effective.
super.
You just had to know. But yeah, we don't need 3. That would just make that whole chart even more complicated. And like 2 unnecessarily complicated.
It's crazy effective.
Mechanics, not just more of the same mechanics. Make some curry.
Make some curry. Some curry. I still don't like how that guy pronounced it. Curry. Curry? Curry. Curry. Say curry. Curry. Katie Curry.
Kitty Curry is off today. But I'm still looking at a fine today.
Baby Boo, KTK. Oh boy. That's
Right.
a reference no one will get.
That's the news.
Well, that's the news apart from the bit that Rob has. The important part of the news, I guess.
Sort of, but not really news, but the thing that hundreds of people have been to see.
Well, the what
The
you
event.
what you would consider real journalism for our standards of Rob went to a place to see
I
things.
went to a thing.
And can
Saw
now report
things.
back on said things.
On said things. Right. I won't talk about everything I saw because honestly, I don't think anything. This is one of those EGX years where I don't think anything. But I didn't walk away feeling blown away by anything particularly. Like there was no like.
What's going on this year? There's not much going on this year.
Exactly. It's a bit of one of those, right? It's like there's not many heavy hitters at the show. Microsoft don't do the show anymore, so it's the second year they're not there. There's still a big old PlayStation booth, but yeah, Microsoft themselves aren't there. It's sort of suggested that they didn't come back because the XO event is supposed to be in London this year, instead of Mexico, where it was last year. So a bit closer at home. There wasn't really huge hitters, and a lot of the stuff that was actually being shown was stuff that was already out. Like Borderlands is there, and I'm like, this is guys like there's a huge queue for Borderlands 3, and they effectively built this weird little chapel, which is kind of odd. And but like a bit of me is like, okay, if you really care about the game that much to stand in line for several hours to play Borderlands 3, probably could have just bought the game, right?
Yeah,
Like might have been a better use of your time and money.
maybe they're so hardcore against the Epic Store. They were just like, I need some Borderlands fix, but I can't buy it on Epic. I'll have to go to this convention and play it for like 20 minutes.
Just bought a console version then. As most people probably did. I mean, Doom was there as well, but again,
that got delayed, so that is kind of.
It
I
got
guess
delayed,
that is
so
kind of a
that's-
nice thing to
It's,
see at this
it's a
point.
bit more acceptable, but it was one of those with ridiculously long lines. Like, there was a point where we wandered up and they stopped us from going in the line because it would be over 2 hours, and we were like, "Thank you for telling us. It's annoying, but thank you for telling us."
Have they not advanced to the theme park levels of queues yet, where you just have a sign that tells you how long the queue is?
No, not in the Doom booth. They were letting it just wrap around the booth, and so they had to throw a guy in. But yeah, that queue seemed to move incredibly slowly. Final Fantasy VII, they actually had a half-hour cut-off point. as
Well,
far as it
sure.
worked out. So they were like the queue could never be longer than half an hour, which was kind of nice, actually. So let's start with that. I saw that. I've played that.
Okay.
I've played that fight in the Mako reactor Mako reactor
boss
that they've been showing.
Yeah.
And I would say it plays exactly as it looks. Like there was no real surprises there. It's like everything that they've shown is what you do. Like
because they did pretty much show that whole fight.
Yeah, pretty much.
From start to end.
Exactly. Yeah, you mash square to use your sword attacks. Once you've got ATB, you can drop into the tactical menu and do some bigger attacks. Do some bigger menus.
Go into the menus and access your bigger menus.
Yeah, so you could do a braver if you wanted to do a braver, or when you got your limit break, you got one of those that slashy thing with the symbols.
Cross slash.
That's the one. I can never tell the difference between the slashes because there's like a triple slash in the list as well, and it's like. And the bit in my head was like, oh, it's the triple slash. It's like, oh, no, it's not. That's even though there's 3 attacks in cross slash, it's.
I don't think triple slash was the original limit though.
No, maybe. Well, it's not a limit. It was just one of the moves you could do.
Right. Yes, cross slash is a limit.
Yeah, and like Barrett had like bullet barrage and focus shot and things like that in his list.
I don't think those were the only one that they showed. The one that they showed in the original video and was the obviously recognizable one is Big Shot, the classic Barrett.
Right. So I think that's what focus shot now is, or something like that. But it wasn't a limit. It was just sort of.
It's the one where he grabs his arm and go, whoop, and then like the ball comes out. You've seen it many times in our Final Fantasy VII playthrough.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, focus shot. I think it was a weaker version of that then, and then
because we didn't really
because I didn't get the Barrett limit, so I didn't see if that's what it was.
Because we didn't really, I guess, If you've talked about our Final Fantasy playthrough, we didn't get very many Barrett's limit breaks, really.
No, not really. A little disappointing. Again, we whistle stopped that game, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. It looked generally okay. So I was sat about a foot away from a massive screen,
Right.
like a massive, too big a screen. Right, so I'm turning my head to see menus. It was a bit ridiculous. But up that close, you could scrutinize it.
Yeah.
So I that close to the screen looked a little bit grimy. Got me said. Like I think there was it was running at 30 frames as we expect again, but there was some ugly dithering going on and some ugly. I think it's a temporal anti-aliasing technique that wasn't quite as sharp as you'd expect. Like it wasn't quite as nice as the stuff used in, like Red Dead Redemption, for example. It looked. I couldn't work out, but there's like some signs of maybe there was some checkerboard rendering going on, or it could have been the TV doing some sort of smoothing elsewhere on the picture, but like not around areas of detail. Like it looked a little bit like encoding or something like that. It was hard to tell exactly what was going on. They didn't have the motion smoothing on, thank heavens. Sony knows how to set up a booth generally for their own stuff, and so it was. I don't know. That close to the screen looked a bit grimy, but that said, like if I was to stand away from the screen, like when I was in the queue and things like that, it's a really nice looking game. Like the character, everything ran fairly. It's super polished. Like in that there was no hitching, there's no like glitches, there was no, like there wasn't really a hair out of place on Cloud's head, that kind of stuff. It was
very spiky.
Yeah. It did look real nice, and the way it like cut between moments of like gameplay and then cutting into a cutscene, cut to a cutscene, was nicely done. The only sort of real like downer to the whole experience was like the fights. Like there were a couple of like encounters leading up to that fight where I'm just fighting a couple of guards and those weird plant-looking monodrive things.
Yeah,
and I don't think those were quite as neat. Well, obviously, because it's not a boss fight.
Oh, yeah.
But it was just the way that mechanically felt. Like the camera struggled a little bit with that walkway and things like that. And like targeting was interesting. Like, okay, which enemy I wanted to actually fight proved a little bit problematic at times. So I guess it's the same sort of issue they sort of had with Final Fantasy 15. But all in all, I came away thinking, yes, I have faith in this product. I think it will turn out nice. The voice acting was over the top and mad, as we've seen from that stuff as well. You can go watch the trailer and see what Barrett sounds like. It's kind of entertaining in a dumb sort of way. I think it'll be good. It was running on a very hot PlayStation Pro. I can tell you that because the Pro was just like sellotaped to the front of this stand, basically.
Okay. And
as I was like putting my bag down, my hand went near it, and it's just like, oh, this thing is toasty. I suppose they've been running all day.
When's it going to be out?
March.
Yep, with everything else.
Oh, blimey. Everything's coming out in March. What's coming out?
Everything is coming out in March.
Fucking Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing. You've got Doom Eternal now.
Doom? Yeah, that's slipped.
Last of Us is February, so it's sort of in that window. There's something else coming out in April. I can't remember off the top of my head. Like another big hitter. It's going to be a busy start to next year. So that was kind of the only real like super heavy hitter that I played there. I was on a bit of an indie run because it's just the best way to spend your time. I don't enjoy standing around in queues to see the big titles because there's an element of I know what to expect from the big titles, right? You kind of know what you're getting into. I reckon Doom Eternal is going to play a hell of a lot like Doom. Fancy that. So I'm not too fussed about not seeing it. Although it sounded like a decent demo. Kippers did drag us to go play Legends of Runeterra, which is
that sounds like 3 different games.
Yeah, it's a terribly titled game. Like it's an awful name.
It's like it's RuneScape, it's Terra, and
League of Legends.
League of Legends, yeah.
But it's basically League of Legends Hearthstone.
Sure.
Right, it's their card
Because
game.
the League of Legends developers have just announced that they're going to make a shit ton of other games suddenly.
Yeah,
They're like, we're done just making this one game.
there's a League of Legends fighting game, isn't
Yep.
there? That actually could be really interesting.
Maybe.
Because of the character variety, man.
Sure.
It's like that's gonna be fascinating to see how they turn some of those mechanics into fighting mechanics. It's one of those. Honestly, it's a Hearthstone through and through.
Yeah.
But they have got some twists on the formula. Like I kind of like how they, so instead of like the way that like a normal card game, I suppose, structures their turns, where it's like when it's your turn, you do all your actions, you declare your attackers, resolved, then another phase afterwards, like maybe like Magic, something like that. It's like they actually have this sort of back and forth mechanic where they call them rounds instead of turns, but there's like a round is a bigger segment, and then within that you have turns. So there's a back and forth in the turns, like between which players can do actions, but the person that is allowed to declare an attack changes every round. So it's like I can play an action, then you can play an action, then I can play an action, but it's my round to attack. So at any point I can change that flow and be like, okay, no more actions. This is the attack phase for this round. And then it goes into a very Hearthstone or Magic style attack and block situation. And then once that's done, it goes back to the back and forth if you want, if you've got mana remaining. And then you can end your round and carry on. So it's got a slight twist on the normal turn system, which is kind of interesting because it means both players can play creatures, or summon things, or play spells and things like that. The only difference is that attack phase. So it's like both players get the chance to gear up for the block, or for the attack phase. It's like this phase I'm going to have to prepare to be defensive, or this phase I'm going to have to prepare to be attacking. And I mean, it's kind of interesting. It's a different way to play your cards. And they're also very upfront about, like, they have this concept of spell speed, where they have slows, fasts, and bursts, which is kind of a nice way of breaking down and explaining the concepts of like instants and things from Magic, right? It's that their idea is that bursts can be played at any time, in any condition, and it's just like, and their effect is immediate. Fasts can't be played, I think, during attacks or something like that, but they can be. But fasts create like a resolving queue, which you can see on screen, right? So it's like this thing will happen, then this thing will happen, then this thing will happen. And slows, I think, can only happen out of combat, and can only there's restrictions to them basically about when they can be played and things like that, and how they resolve. And it's quite good at explaining all that. I've done a terrible job of it, but their tutorials are actually really good at explaining how all that stuff actually links together, and it's quite easy to follow. So I think they've done a really damn good job there at creating a rule set that makes sense. It's not too different from other games, but it's very well explained and very upfront about how it is. And there's even the thing that you can do where you can preview what's going to happen. Like, so if I played my card and everything stayed as it is, like, here's how it will turn out. Like, which is really neat. It means you get, like, it's a way of understanding.
It means you don't have to just do math in your head all the time.
Yeah, or hope for the best. It's like, well, I hope the game processes this in the order I think it will.
Yeah.
Because you can just go, oh no, it's going to do this. And I think that's cool. I think it's. I'm not going to play it because it's a freaking card game, and I don't really.
And it's also League of Legends branded, which the UW don't care about.
Yeah. But I think it's like it's a neat take on that genre. But like I think it deserves to exist, probably more than Artifact does. That kind of.
Not that Artifact really exists anymore.
No, I guess not. I have played a couple of the mini games from Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games.
Are they good enough that you think it might be a whole package?
So annoyingly, the games that they were showing, I don't think were the ones that actually have the depth that I'm interested in.
You did like sprinting where you just matter about them.
Pretty much, yeah. They had this one that we tried one of the 16-bit events, or the old school events, which was the marathon mode, which is actually kind of fun because it's like a 2D it's like a 2D left to right when you're only really worried about moving up and down for positioning when you press A to burn stamina to gain more speed. But there's it's quite a long race, hence the name marathon, I suppose. But you're using other mechanics around. Like there are drink stations that you probably want to pay attention to, which slow you down in the instant, but will build up your stamina bar quite a bit. Or there may be groups of other runners that are creating windbreaks for you to hide behind to regain a bit of stamina whilst maintaining speed and things like that. So it becomes actually kind of like a strategy race more than a straight masher. And it's like, this is kind of okay, actually, surprisingly all right. Although Peach doesn't really animate her legs, and they use
a lot of those animations are very non-animated.
Yeah, it's like Mario 1 Peach,
the
one you find in the castle. So it's she doesn't really animate; she's just gliding about, and they use her as the example video or the example screenshots, and it's quite funny. Whereas you get Mega Drive Sonic, which is a bit odd.
Well, yeah, the comparison between the ancient Mario sprites and the not quite so ancient Sonic sprites.
It's NES sprites versus Mega Drive sprites, which is slightly strange. But hey, I guess they're targeting, what is it, the 23, 20 something?
63.
63, right, yeah.
The last Tokyo Olympics, basically.
So I guess they were trying to use the oldest, quote-unquote, sprites, maybe. Maybe. That's an assumption.
Well, it's just if you're going to use the older sprites, you have to use the older sprites. But you don't match them necessarily to the Sonic age.
Right, yeah.
91.
Also, and then the kind of we did the archery, which is almost exactly what you expect, using the Joy-Cons to shoot bullets.
That's not what I'd expect out of archery, actually.
Shoot arrows. It had wind mechanics, and if you scored 2 bullseyes in a row, then you'd score a double point shot as a third one. That was its little twist.
Yeah, that's not how it works in the Olympics. I'm pretty sure.
The super shot. And the hurdles, which is again pretty much what you expect. You take a Joy-Con in each hand, you jiggle them up and down in a running action. But oddly, their motion for doing the hurdles was to punch.
Okay.
So you take your right hand and punch forward and twist.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was and hold the buttons at the same time. There was push the buttons and punch all at the same time.
It seems kind of unnecessary then if you're already holding the buttons.
I think so. But I think there's control scheme. Most of the games will have, some of the games had multiple control schemes, so you could choose to play them with buttons or choose to play them with motion controls.
Because they some of them on the Switch Lite.
Kinda, yeah. And some of them went as far as being you can use motion controls as if you had 2 Joy-Cons, or motion controls as if you had just 1. So they thought about it, but at the very least, the bit I wasn't sure about is this demo only really showed everything in 2-player mode.
Right.
It's is there any 4-player stuff going on here? Because some of these could be quite easily 4-player events.
Well, it definitely looks like some of them are meant to be 4-player.
Yeah.
Even in the classic sprite mode.
Sure. Yeah.
And if they've made controls that are designed for 1 Joy-Con, that seems to imply Joy-Con sharing.
Well, yeah, but you only get 2 with a console, so
yeah.
It seemed fine, is what I mean. I didn't get to see how the rugby worked, which is the most interesting thing to me.
Because that would take far too long.
Yeah, the demo did have skateboarding mode, and it did have, I think judo might have been an option. But Kips and Jam didn't want to play. So
why?
Yeah.
You missed the opportunity to see the interesting things.
Yeah, I know. But a bit of the old track and field appeal was coming out. A little bit to be is this one of those? Oh, it's totally one of those. Long jump. We did long jump in retro colors,
right?
In retro style, and it's exactly as you'd expect. Mash button A to gain speed, push B to set angle, release B to jump at angle. Job done.
Pro concept.
Yep. I wonder if I can file a complaint. Staying on the athletic tip, I played Ring Fit Adventure.
Yeah.
The first 2 levels of its adventure mode.
Right.
It had the desired effect of making me a very sweaty person.
In a convention center.
Which
probably wasn't that hard.
I really feel bad for those people that are having to man that store, man. There must have been some real... I mean, I'm not the best for sweat in general. I sweat a lot. And Yeah, there must have been some people that had it way worse than I did.
Did you manage to discern whether the ring contains electronics or not?
No.
Oh, damn it.
I couldn't quite tell. Because it's sort of enclosed around the edges of the con, so I couldn't really see what it or feel much going on.
Did you get to do the heart rate thing?
No, they weren't. They weren't showing that supposedly, but they did give a reason. They were like, okay, at this point, the game would normally ask if you want to take your heart rate to like after you've done a level, basically. But you're like, okay, now take your heart rate, and it will put a prompt on screen saying, do you want to do this? But they weren't doing it at the show because apparently in those conditions there was actually quite a lot of interference going on. And I'm like, but I'm putting my thumb on the sensor to do this, right? That's how that works. You just mash your thumb on the IR sensor and it tries to do something. Why would there be interference if I'm like cutting off everything around it with my thumb?
Well, unless it's interference from the Joy-Con back to the Switch that they didn't want messing with it.
Maybe. Yeah. That seemed like slightly odd, but they were like, they at least said it's like, we're not doing it for this reason.
You'd think the better reason would logically be that surely it would have to be configured per person anyway.
Probably.
You'd have to take a baseline of even of just your skin color probably for it to be able to.
Well, it does like a strength test before you begin. Like, so when you create your profile on it, it will be like, it basically what it does is it just asks you to squeeze and pull the ring and hold it there for a while.
Yeah.
And it will base how much you need to squeeze and pull in order to do actions during the adventure based on how much you set there. So if you did like next to nothing on it and just held it there, you could have a really easy time. Like it would be super sensitive, basically. So like just a little squeeze to do the punch action. But if you really jam it in, you're going to give yourself a harder time to do the actions because it's going to expect you to push it that far. Which I think is a neat way of scaling the difficulty, actually. Because it's like, how hard do you want to go? Show me how hard you want to go. All right, we're going that hard. Let's do this. Yeah. Honestly, that thing works. That's basically what you can really say, right? Like you've seen what it is. You've seen that it's the run and it's got that running bit. Like, it's got the battles.
You needed to see whether it's how well it actually detected the motion.
Yeah,
was the thing,
and it seems accurate enough as far as I can tell. Yeah, that thing works. Although it's interesting because it does warn you. It does like the Star Fox thing, like in Star Fox Zero, like it had like a button, or the Splatoon thing where it had like a button dedicated to recentering the gyros.
Right. Yeah.
It has a thing where it's like, well, if you just point the ring down, it's actually going to recalibrate every time you do that. So when you hold it flat forwards, which is like how you like you can press it to do like a burst against the floor, and that's how you jump.
Right. Yeah.
But every time you're pointing it down, it's actually recalibrating.
But how does it know it's pointing down to recalibrate?
Yeah, exactly. There's a bit of that.
Unless it's somehow using the IR sensor, but that wouldn't be facing the right direction.
Or unless
it's pointing out sideways.
Unless the accelerometers are okay and it's the gyro that recalibrates every time you do that.
Yeah, maybe.
Because gravity's not going to change, right? Yeah, so that was all right. It did the job. I think that's kind of it for the like mainline super big titles that I covered there. There were other things there. Oh no, according to the EGX list, there was like one of their mainline games is No Straight Roads, which if you'd heard that name, you'd probably go shrug. I think it was like I think we've seen it before, either on a Twitch, like a Nintendo Direct or some kind of State of Play or something, because it basically like tried to advertise itself as rock versus EDM,
right?
A sort of adventure game based on that concept.
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember it.
And I think outside of the style, unfortunately, that thing plays incredibly generically. Like, okay, it was a boss fight on a giant vinyl record, because of course it is.
Yeah.
And you're playing as these two seemingly very stupid rockheads, but with a good cause in mind to free the vinyl city from these EDM controlling bastards. Because EDM's evil, apparently. It was just basically you running around this disc, avoiding attacks, punching things, like with like mash square now to do punches, and eventually things would get a bit more complicated, and there were certain And this is where actually, in some respects, when it tried to do something a bit different, like it would put up a stand with like 4 pads on it, and then throw attacks at you in a very clearly telegraphed sequence. Only the problem was I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do to avoid those attacks. Like, do I jump over them or do I move from square to square? I seem to be getting hit either way. Like I don't quite know what I'm supposed to be doing here. So I don't know. It didn't really land. It didn't really land its punches. All that punching and it didn't land anything. And the music was more disco than straight up EDM. So,
It's problematic if you're branding your game in that specific way and you haven't got the music genre right.
It was like, like modern funk disco, I suppose, but like dance disco. I don't know what you even call
that. Unless it's only rock versus EDM and like the vinyls are just all kinds of music. Like it just happened to be a disco vinyl that they were fighting on.
I guess he's specifically confronting this DJ at his own club or something. Yeah. Anyway, that was that. So then there was. Oh god, I'm trying to navigate the list of like what's going on at EGX to try and find the list of games because I'm forgetting a lot of stuff. There was a lot of stuff, but I'll sort of swipe my way through this and talk about the stuff that was vaguely interesting. Right, Art of Rally.
Yeah.
Do you remember Absolute Drift on Steam?
Vaguely.
That was the sort of white and red.
It was the mirror's edge of driving.
Yeah, basically the mirror's edge of drift mechanics, and so the guy that made that has basically gone on to make this like an actual rally simulation using those driving mechanics. It's like, we've got the mechanics down and we made a sort of a concept game out of it the first time. Now we've actually got budget to make the environments for that in our second game. So that's what they're doing. They're making a isometric rally game with that handling, and that seems quite cool. It's all right.
Cool.
I played Avicii Invector, which is a music game with Avicii music, and I thought it was just okay. Not just because it's Avicii music, but because actually I think some of the way that they do their note patterns was vaguely confusing. It was one of those where I think it would take time to learn what it wants you to do sometimes, because it has like a 3-lane system in front of you. Where you have to be in the same lane, you have to get your ship into the same lane as where the button press is, and that's all rhythmic. But there are times where those 3 lanes are actually on the sides of a triangle tube, so like you're rotating round the triangle to get to the things, and sometimes those are hugely telegraphed by one of the notations you actually have to hit being the move action. So it's like you have to be in that lane and then do the move action to go there, but sometimes not. And when I upped the difficulty from easy to normal, they were kind of not more often than they were, and also the combinations were like press a button in this lane, now press a button in the second lane really quickly. Like it didn't really ease me into that. It was like you have to go bang bang, but like the second bang probably has to be accompanied with a direction to get there for you to hit that note. And I just found that slightly awkward. And like it would be nice if that was telegraphed a bit better than it was. I don't know. I found it weird. I found it odd. Not bad looking though. If it was running on a system that was running well, which my one wasn't. But the other 3 stations seemed to be fine. Let's keep going. In a similar vein to Art of Rally, again, I think we've seen this at some sort of direct or some sort of presentation from one of them.
I think this was a PlayStation one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it could be. Circuit Superstars.
Yeah, I think when we saw it, it didn't have a name because it was just the developers talking about how they wanted to make this fancy driving game that wasn't like a typical third-person driving game.
Yeah, and I think they've succeeded. So it's like it basically like the cars turn in space like Micro Machines cars, right?
Yeah,
but the way that they handle on the actual track is hugely dependent on your speed. So you're having to manage throttle and braking and the speed of your turn, because it's analog,
right?
Really quite carefully in order to do well. And the demo they were showing was basically just a time trial. It's like, hey, go around this track for 10 laps and see how it feels and see how much better you can get over the course of those laps. And to be honest, that was enough because it feels good. It's like it's like there's something about playing it from that perspective that but with just that hint of like arcadiness because of the way it turns, because of the way the cars rotate with how you press, like combined with how those throttle mechanics work, and it's like it's nice. It felt good to shave seconds off each lap and be like, all right, no, I got that. I figured out how to make that. I need to come out of this turn at this specific angle and then lean into this turn with this. You drive figuring out the racing line for this track. It's like it's a part of a game that doesn't look like it should be. It was cool. I came away kind of more impressed with that than I thought I'd be. There's more to it than appearances would suggest.
When's that around?
You know what? I've got no idea. I think it's relatively early in development still, so I'm not sure we'll see that soon.
But promising.
Otherwise, why weren't they showing races?
Yeah, fair.
And not just a time trial-y thing. What else we got? I'm going to skip over some poopers because there was a reasonable amount of poopers this year, like stuff I played. And I'm just like, eh. Iron Meat. Let's talk about that because it's a Contra game that's not a Contra game, but they go a little bit mad with its setting. It's like the first level is like very clearly.
As if Contra wasn't bad.
Well, okay, it's they kind of play a little bit on the horror pastiche a little more than they do. So like you end up like things get progressively worse as the game goes on. Is their pitch? It's like it starts off being like, oh, you're just going to investigate a thing, and then as things go on, like the infection that's landed on the planet gets worse and worse, and all the weird stuff happens, and all the environments are filled with tentacles and weird things, and it's I have to say it plays very well. There was a Resident Evil film reference that was quite well done. There's a few sort of like Terminator-y jabs here and there, or like I'm not sure they were even particularly intentional. They just reminded me of Terminator quite a lot. I had a lot of fun playing that. It's hard as balls, but it's pretty generous with it knows it's hard, and so you get quite a lot of lives to complete things. And apparently there's an actual like it's kind of unfinished in the game at the point that they showed us, but there's like a thematic reason for why your character can die and respawn, to the point where they're going to add animations of your character like rebuilding himself, like or picking himself back up after you've been shot or dismembered and things like that. They're actually going to add animations for you coming back to life in various ways based on how you died, and it's like, oh, this sounds cool. It played real well is all I'm saying. Like it felt really nice to play.
I mean,
so if you like your Contra games, it's like, yeah, it's one of those.
If you like your Contra games, don't play the Contra game that Konami just put out.
Oh god, don't play hardcore, yeah, because that looks garbage.
No, what have they done?
They put out a 4-player co-op Contra game that's, what is it? It's behind the back, sort of, but you're walking forward into the environment, and it's, man, just go look at how bad it looks. It's like a couple of generations old graphics, and it's like brown filter. It's like HD mode. Like was the old next gen filter?
Yeah, well. HD is brown. Yeah,
it's oh man, that's a horrendous looking thing. I do want to talk about one pooper, just because. Well, it was interesting just how much of a rip-off this is. It was called Monagerie, and it is so trying to be old school Game Boy Pokemon. It's unreal. To the point where you have tame animals that you control, but they have 4 moves each, and there's like a stamina bar and a health bar, and it's even presented in that kind of like 2D sprites, like one facing the other kind of way. Mm-hmm. Right, and it's trying to be that, but at the same time, it's not as good as that. Like it didn't capture that thing. I don't know quite how. It didn't feel like that thing when I played it, and I didn't have a good time with it. It might be a really hard thing to demo, in fairness. I mean, they got the look right, but yeah, just.
I watched the start of the quick look of that game that's trying to be Skate. That is not doesn't look
what's that,
promising.
Session?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh,
trailer.
Kipper's played Skatebird. He said it was the glitchiest thing at the show.
Well, that's a tradition in skate games.
Yeah. The person, someone sat down. I was playing another game called Nuts at the time, and someone sat down next to me and tried it, and he immediately got his bird stuck in a wall and just had the camera like tarred out, and they were just like, only you could make this break within 4 seconds. Apparently, this guy has a track record for breaking games amongst his friends. We played this a Team 17 game trying to be another version of Overcooked, because there's a lot of those right now, called Moving Out. And it's basically like, here, go grab this stuff from this establishment and put it in the back of a moving van. And while it seemed functional, I'm not quite sure I get, like it doesn't have the Overcooked sense of panic. And I think that's kind of why I enjoy that game, because you're supposed to be shouting at each other and dealing with like a horrible situation. This is much more measured. It's about optimizing the run, whilst looking like an Overcooked game. And it just wasn't all that interesting to me. I think Kippers was more enamored with it than I was. I didn't see it. It's just like, why play this when I can play Overcooked?
Yeah, exactly.
I played a bit of New Super Lucky's Tale.
Nice.
So yeah, I like what they're doing now. It's kind of
like
fun.
New Super Mario.
Yeah,
like a game from the previous Nintendo system.
Yeah, and it was on the Switch. I was playing it on Switch. It's one of those. It's a Banjo-Kazooie Mario-y style platform. It's a 3D platform, and with every trope you can imagine but it seems. Nothing particularly wrong with it. Nothing particularly amazing about it as a demo. Oh, hey, I didn't play it because I could play it at any time because I've got it. But hey, R8 Games were there with that Pacer.
It's the game that's been renamed.
Yeah, and I guess it's just come out or is about to come out on consoles.
Yeah.
So that's why they were there. It looked a tiny bit different from when I played it as Formula Fusion, but not a huge amount. So maybe when I return to it, I'm not expecting it to be great still. What else we got? I have played both Windjammers 2 and Streets of Rage, not Rage Against the Streets. Windjammers 2 and Streets of Rage 4, which were right next to each other conveniently. Let's talk about Windjammers.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Windjammers. Windjammers is real good.
Oh, good.
Because it's Windjammers. It's basically Windjammers again. It's like they've added a few mechanics here and there, but man, if they want to just capture what the original was, they have done that. Like, it feels identical.
Like, that was where the first round of the alternate versions kind of failed, like the 3D ones. And it's like
disc jam.
You start losing the like weird precision of the original Windjammers as soon as you move away from sprites.
It's this feels like just so much like Windjammers. It's like they've got it spot on, and they've added a couple of there's like a super meter now, which is kind of fun. Because like you can still do like the super moves in the same way. Like if it bats up in the air and you're under it at the right time, you'll charge into a super in the same way you did on the original. But there's now like some bluffing mechanics and things like that. If you want to do like sorry, microphone.
Punch the microphone.
Sorry, microphone. You can throw the disc as if you're not horizontally, like with a vertical stance intentionally now, if you want to. And
you could do that before.
That
was the lob.
Kinda, yeah, but it's. Yeah, maybe, I guess. But you can do that from the air. You can spike it. You can jump. So you can jump up instead of like stand below the thing and jump, and you can spike it down, which is kind of fun. Like as an extra thing to mess your opponents up. But you can also choose to burn your super meter as a sort of like an area of effect save. So like a circle will appear around you when you fire it, and if the frisbee is in that zone, it will just bat it into the air.
Right.
It's giving you a bit more time to either jump and try and spike it, or to stand under it and fire and charge a super instead. And I think you can use it offensively as well, just in place of a shot. so you can just you can do your super at any time if you want, if you've got meter. It looks, and it's basically got all of the same style as well. It's like it may be in that crisp art style now, but it's like all of the things that appeared, like where it said the score and where it said what set you're on. It's like it's the same. It's basically just Windjammers again, but with a few more mechanics. I guess it's like Lethal League, right? It's Lethal League Blaze. It's like it's Lethal League, but with a few more mechanics and a graphical improvement. And that's no bad thing. I had a whale of a time. It's great. And I also really enjoyed Streets of Rage 4. Streets of Rage 4.
Sweet.
That was so that they were showing the same stage that they have been showing gameplay demos of in video form, which is stage 6, as it turns out. It plays real well. It plays like like almost the same philosophy. It plays like a better looking Streets of Rage game with a few more mechanics thrown in. And this is a really great way to tackle retro properties, I think. Like, just mildly, like, if you manage to make it feel like the original, you're most of the way there. Just add a little bit more, and you're onto a banger. And they've done exactly that with this. It was great. Honestly,
excellent.
It was great.
Some promising stuff here.
Yeah.
Streets of Rage.
I mean, I'm looking forward to Streets of Rage almost more for the soundtrack than I am the actual game, though, because, man, that's a lineup on that thing. With Hideki Naganuma and Yu Suzuki. There's some proper talent on that thing. What a game. Right, moving on. What else we got? Skybolt Zack I played, just because it's got Zack's name in it.
Great reasoning.
Well, it wasn't. I got dragged in. It was one of those where it's like the Kippers and Jam are playing something called Pride Run, which is kind of exactly what it is. It's like a gay pride rhythm game. Unfortunately, they didn't say it was very good, but hey, it's there. But the same publisher was putting out this game, and I was like, well, I'll play this then while you guys do that. And it seems it's interesting because it's a speed running game effectively, but its main mechanic is it's a platformer, but you want to spend as little time on the floor as possible because anything that's within range you can just punch your way to in an instant. So if there's an enemy like within the radius of your punch, and it's green, for instance, you'll press the A button on the controller because it's green, and you'll just punch it. You'll zip to it and punch it, and it's about chaining together those punches in order to get where you need to be. And work your way through the level, and if you do better, then the radius of your punch gets progressively bigger, allowing you to get to different areas that you perhaps couldn't before. And it's got a branching path story and things like that. It seemed quite fun, actually. It's a relatively simple concept, but it seemed pretty fun. Well made, and that's about to come out like in the next couple of weeks. So if you're vaguely interested, there you go. And someone's trying the surgeon simulator thing again. Hands and physics. But this time it's a dating sim.
What are you going to do with your hands? Oh, wait, like dinner and
dinner,
stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you going to do with your hands in the dating sim? That's worrying.
Okay.
I hadn't thought of that. It's called Table Manners. Yeah, so it's all about dinner, dates. But with that sort of mechanic, like, do you want to pour a glass of wine in the glass, or do you want to pour it all over your date?
All over your date.
Yeah, because you can do that. Can you set fire to the table and have your date not be that worried about it?
That's right.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, that was quite fun. One of those games where you just have to be patient with it, patient with the controls, and you can figure it out quite easily. I found anyway. I think some people can't, but I 3-starred the 2 levels they were showing. And it was just, yeah, it was funny nonetheless. That might be it, to be honest, in terms of things worth talking about. The Left Field collection didn't blow me away with stuff this year. There wasn't like a thumper there for me to sort of look at and go, oh, this is going to be good. There was a lot of concept-y or pretentious sort of things, a bit of poetry going on. It's a slightly odd. I mean, that's kind of the point, right? It's supposed to be an odd selection, but there's nothing there that really sort of super blew me away. Apart from one thing that was, I won't say it blew me away, but it was like, it got me intrigued, and it was like I've just had to go find a picture of it because I can't for the life of me ever remember the name of this thing. But it was called EGXstained, or EX Zodiac, or something like that.
As in, it used to be Zodiac, or
yeah, I guess.
An ex-Zodiac.
I'm an ex-Zodiac. The rat has left. It's now only 11. It's so basically the developer sort of has gone, I like Star Fox. I'd quite like to be there in it. Shut up. I didn't even say Alexa. Quiet. I like Star Fox, but I like that SNES Star Fox. What if it looked, sounded, and played like that Star Fox, but ran at 60 frames per second?
Apparently not.
Alexa can't imagine it.
Yeah, so he basically made his first level of this game, and that was all he had. It was quite quick and quite short, but yeah, he nailed it.
Yeah,
it looked, felt, and played quite a lot like Star Fox, like the original.
What Star Fox? Original Star Fox.
The SNES one, yeah, with its like low resolution and no textures and low poly look. And even a gerp guy, and
then he's going to get sued.
It wasn't Slippy Toad, but like you don't have teammates in this. Like it was just someone on the radio telling you the controls, and it didn't say use the boost to get through or anything,
not yet,
or do a barrel roll. There wasn't barrel rolling yet, but yeah, I want to see what that does basically, because it's like it's kind of cool that someone's going for it. How long you'll stick, like as with every one of these projects, that's probably a guy. Like how long will he stick with it, and will there be more to it? How long do I have to wait to see more of this thing? But yeah, cool that it exists. Yeah, that's probably my EGX really.
Cool. Well, there's some positive stuff there.
Yeah,
excited about Windjammers and Streets of Rage.
Yeah, Windjammers and Streets of Rage were the most obvious, like these are good games, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of stuff where it's like, I don't know if this is like ready yet, or this is early potential kind of stuff, or exactly what you'd expect. And I suppose like Streets of Rage 4 and Windjammers are kind of still exactly what I'd expect, but they're a very good kind of exactly what I'd expect. Or more, they're exactly what I want. How about that? That's probably the better way to put it. They're a bit of me. So there you go. That's your EGX 2019 report. I quite like it being at London XL rather than Birmingham. But you really need to do something about your toilets, XL. They were garbage.
Really? Oh, that's bad.
Was anyone streaming in them?
No, I don't know. They were just poorly maintained. Like the sort of bathroom where if you went to wash your hands, you could press the tap and it would either not run or explode. Oh crap! I forgot the other really, really good surprise of EGX. How did I forget this, man? My VR game of the show, because I always have to have one of those.
Apparently.
So I got to try Rift S, which is the other thing. So brand new controller, inside out tracking, and I can safely say, yeah, that thing works. And it fits over my glasses nicely. So the Rift S, thumbs up. But what I was playing in it was the very nice surprise of Space Team VR. It's Space Team in VR.
It's basically the Star Trek game, but like comedy version.
Okay.
And that's great. Yeah, it's basically that. It's all it's trying to be is Space Team in VR, and it's excellent. This was their first public test, so it had a few teething problems here and there. Like it had no tutorialization and stuff like that, which they realized was a bit of a problem because no one knew what they were doing unless they were aware of the original game. So they had taught themselves to basically give a nice big intro to the game themselves. So they were figuring stuff out as they went. And it was clearly a bit of a pain for them to run because it was quite an early build. So they were having to run 3 PCs and 3 VR kits to run this thing, and it needed rebooting after every session and stuff like that. So it was clearly a pain for them to actually run. But yeah, I want to play more of that. That was a right laugh. Because it's Space Team.
Because it's Space Team.
Yeah.
That reminded me of something else we kind of missed that I just remembered that's news, I guess. Kind of news. I guess it hasn't happened yet. Maybe it'll be more news shortly. But Valve are making, now that they've got their streaming thing working, I guess. I mean, it's been like that, been pretty good for a while. They're now introducing online co-op. So any game that is usually considered couch co-op, you can just stream the video stream to other players and play it over the internet as if it was an online game.
Oh, cool. That's neat. Because I thought weren't PS4 like selling that as one of its early features, right? When they were saying that streaming was just going to be...
You could pass off the game to someone else, though, right? Was their original concept
so
for that?
You could hand control not co-op across. Yeah, I wonder how well that'll work. Like, latency-wise.
Well, I'm sure that is the problem with latency, but as we've tested a couple of times, like when I was streaming Forager to Rob's house the other time when we were trying that, it's like I think that Steam streaming does work pretty good, all things considered.
Yeah, it's not bad. I wonder if what am I thinking? I assume Stadia will have a lot of that stuff built in, right? Like it will be advantageous for Stadia because it's just like this is just how the platform works. It's like, yeah, we can do a co-op. Why not?
Yeah, maybe. You'd hope so, anyway.
It would just be streaming to 2 people instead of 1.
But I guess you could kind of say, like, how has no one thought of this at this point?
I mean, I guess. Yeah.
It's like, you've got a local co-op game and no one likes, and that's too much effort to get 4 people in the same house. Why not just stream it to the other people instead?
Yeah. I guess because, latency is still a huge issue, especially for streaming from your own house.
Yeah.
It's one thing for Stadia to work coming from an enormous data center
because that's only one way, basically.
But when it's coming out of your house, it's relying a lot on your own broadband, to do things that they're not really still even now not particularly great at for most people.
But it could definitely work pretty good for most couch co-op games are what you'd say are kind of like low-powered games, so they're not going to be stressing your system otherwise. So you've probably got a bit of overhead left over for rendering a video and sending it. So it should theoretically work reasonably well for most of those, I imagine.
Talking about things we've forgotten.
Yeah.
I forgot about one of the big things I saw at EGX, actually.
Another one?
I have seen that behind closed doors 40-minute gameplay demo of Cyberpunk.
No, right.
Oh, you've seen it?
I've seen it with my eyes.
What can you tell us?
It is incredible.
Really?
That thing is that if unless it was smoke and mirrors and that thing wasn't a live demo. I mean, they clearly had build things in place to make it so it was demo friendly, right? Like here's the character build we got leveled up. Yeah, and and we can do there are certain points where the demo knows to prompt you to swap to another loadout, for instance, and it effectively reloads in a different scenario of the same area, so they can show you how it could play out differently. So unless that was all smoke and mirrors and was well rehearsed thing. Man, that thing is impressive. Just environmentally, I think more than anything else. Just how that world is structured, how that world interacts. Just the areas you're walking through. There's a busy, neon-soaked Blade Runner-esque marketplace in this demo that's just filled with people having conversations. And, for the demo purposes, they were just casually walking by everyone. But it's I wonder how much of this you could zone into, and there'd probably be far too much to zone into, and that in itself is kind of interesting. It's are we getting to the point where you don't have to stand around and, well, I suppose you don't ever have to, but if you were to actually just stand around and try and eavesdrop on everyone and everything that's going on, you're going to spend like far too long because it's just part of this world. It's like I think it would be too much to do that. There's so much world building going on, and it's weird because it's all highlighted by the HUD. Like it's translating the subtitle. Like the subtitles are sort of like in place and auto translating what's going on around you, and so you can just walk past these people and sort of catch a little paragraph on screen of what they're talking about whilst they're actually talking about, little things here and there that are just adding to like here's how your cyber system works in your head. But that environment it's just incredible how much is going on and how well realized it is, and it's to the point where there was just a building in the background just casually has an explosion and no one like bats an eyelid and kind of just this is just something that happens, just carry on. It's like, and even they didn't like react to it during the demo, and it's like, was that supposed to happen, or like was that something weird going on? And it's like, gosh, man, this is one of the in terms of world building, it's just one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. It's just, and then you get the gameplay kicks in and you get all the old, like I would say old school Deus Ex vibes, right? I'm getting all that stuff from the original Deus Ex.
That's all I want, man.
Hey, you can play this aggressively. Hey, you can play this stealthily. You can build this loadout. You can have these You can have this Mass Effect conversation tree as well, and have it all play out completely differently based on what you say. And it's,
come on, Cyberpunk, be the new Deus Ex, be the good.
Yeah, and the demo ends on something that is theoretically could have been a branching choice, like a dramatically branching choice potentially. And it's like, oh, okay, that's like you're going to show me they only played out one direction, but it's like these are the other choices or the other things I could have done in this scenario must have played out wildly differently, or could have had story ramifications that could have gone in different directions. And it's like, oh, this is fascinating. Yeah, I came away really quite impressed.
Okay, so hype for Cyberpunk, because I've always
that was the other thing, wasn't it?
I've always been very
March,
cautious about Cyberpunk.
Well,
what?
Or is that April? That might be April.
That might
Seriously?
be April thing. Yes,
April next year.
April next year.
It's way sooner than I thought. Oh man. Oh god. Okay.
I thought it was super impressive. Like, as I said, if it wasn't smoke and mirrors, like that stuff, but it's like the only thing like that we walked away from that demo thinking looked a bit maybe not so good is the actual shooting.
Yeah,
like
but,
Deus Ex.
Like Deus Ex, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's something slightly off about how that thing looked, but I don't know if they were playing up to it. Like, because obviously, like demo mode, the guy is like almost intentionally moving smoothly through the environment, or shooting at things that you wouldn't normally like spray at.
Yeah,
just to show how much the environment can disintegrate. And it was in an old shopping. It was in an unfinished shopping mall, so there was a lot of things to shoot and disintegrate, and it was really cool. And I think he was overkilling people, as in like they'd come up and he'd down them in a few bullets or something, but then he'd just sort of sit there shooting them a bit longer just to see bits fall off them, and like for them to do the sort of ragdoll blah 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 blah, a bit of the cannon fodder.
Well, as long as it doesn't go like Max Payne. Max Payne 3.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there might be a bit. Yeah, I think it might be a little that way. Yeah, so that was the only thing that sort of perhaps looked a little off, but that could be explained by just how these demos have to be to make it so you can see what's going on a bit, or what they're trying to show. And it also appears that there's a lot of Keanu in this game.
No,
really?
They actually paid a lot of money.
Yeah, I think the storyline basically is about Keanu primarily, or at least or at least a large portion of the game. Or Johnny Silverhand, as his name is.
Great name,
Mr. Sober, or whatever whatever the sometimes E3 claimed.
And they teased. Basically, the demo ended with like a bit where you go into your consciousness can go into cyberspace. That's a thing, and so it's this So it's this whole other representation of space and interaction and things like that. And it's,
sort of like a. So
it was a sequence in the demo,
space.
but I think there's like that. It was a sequence in the demo, but there's potential there for it to be like an alternative realm for you to traverse it, so to speak. But that looks in their weird spiky vision of how like tech works in that in this.
Oh man, I'm excited now.
It was crazy impressive.
I spent a long time
it wasn't
being
a playable
like
demo, obviously, but
very cautious about Cyberpunk and not sure for a long time. So I'm really pleased because obviously, like, they have a great reputation with The Witcher, and I love Cyberpunk as in the genre, like Deus Ex. So if it's going to do that, and I don't care if the shooting isn't amazing because that's really hard to do anyway. I mean, what game?
You'd probably have a great time. Sorry, yeah, you'd probably have a great time playing this on easy mode, right, and just experiencing the world.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those where it's like I don't think you'd have to be too worried about, like, you could hardcore it because it's got stats, it's got some stuff it borrows from the board games in terms of its mechanics and things like that, and it's all about build and how you want to play and stuff like that. But it's like I don't think that has to be difficult to enjoy it. It doesn't strike me as one of those. It's not like it's not like a Metal Gear where kind of like actual Metal Gear 5, like most of the game is its mechanics with some funky cutscenes thrown in. It's where actually playing hardcore, I imagine, could be pretty rewarding if you're that sort of player. I think this doesn't have to be that. I think this could just be soak it in. You'll have a great time. Soak it in. Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah. Okay. We're running out of time in this podcast.
Well, thankfully, I haven't got much to talk about in terms of games. So that's
cool. What you been playing, man?
I finished Bloodstained.
How many percent?
99%.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
Not even 260.
I don't think it goes that high. I think this map. And that's only a map completion stat in this.
No.
So it's not like an actual completion stat. I think there's a hell of a lot more I haven't seen. I know about one secret area that I haven't got to or been to. It's one of those that you probably wouldn't know it exists, but I've had YouTube spoil it for me. So now I know it exists. I kind of have to work out how to get there, so which will probably mean looking it up. Anyway, there's a secret area that looks kind of cool and might have some loot in it. And there's a couple of things in the environment I know I haven't done that maybe I'll check out, but I'm not sure. It's one of those. I've got to that point that I have, like, in a lot of games where it's like, I finished it now. Do I really want to go back and do these other things? I'm not sure that I will. I think my impressions from last cast still stand in that I think the game concept and how it plays in general is really quite good and quite compelling, but I think it's also layered with a certain amount of jank and the game not being as polished maybe as it should be, like just in terms of how it runs or the sound glitches or the sometimes terrible voice acting or the boss design that is sometimes just really kind of on the crappy side, whereas others are really very good. It's like it's an all over the place game, and that makes it kind of interesting. Well, it makes it very interesting for both good and bad reasons, and it's I enjoyed it a hell of a lot, as it turned out. So it's a flawed game, but it's an enjoyable one. You might as well play it if you have Game Pass, you know. That's not really a ringing endorsement.
The classic.
It's like, yeah. But if you're struggling for choices and you're looking at the Game Pass list going, I don't know, it's like, hey, give Bloodstained a look. It's like, oddly, it's a weird place for me to come in, I suppose, because this is the first Castlevania game I've probably played properly. And it's technically the last Castlevania game, but it's not technically a Castlevania game.
Yep.
So, all kinds of oddness going on there. Egavania, if you want to call it that. Apparently he's going to be a boss in the game. Or he is a boss in the game if you're like a Kickstarter backer.
Sure.
Like a secret boss. So I won't be able to find him. And I'm not going to buy the DLC to make it so I can find him. That's pretty much me done. Still playing Tetris 99 for some reason.
Is Tetris 99 like more fun to play than like Tetris Effect, or what's the?
I don't know why I'm drawn to Tetris 99.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's just because it's one of those things I can have ready to go on the Switch at any moment.
Yep,
Right.
that's why.
And be like, I've got a few minutes I've got like 10 minutes. I can get a couple of games in that time. So it's just basically on suspend the whole time, just sat there ready to go.
Maybe you should charge your 3DS again and get back to some of those games that you missed.
Yeah, maybe. It's nice to have a very quick thing to just drop into. I'm still occasionally playing Pokemon Picross on my 3DS. Like, I can do the training.
The shortest time.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's nice for that. Also, well, I guess part of the draw is that it's got dailies.
Yeah, well,
like there's a couple of challenges every day that so you can earn 2 tickets every day unless you're a DLC purchaser, and you can earn 4 tickets. But those tickets can eventually be traded in for themes to change what the game looks and sounds like. And I haven't been particularly overwhelmed by the. I'm not even whelmed. I don't think. I'm underwhelmed by the Mario and Zelda themes that are available. They look okay, but they don't sound alright. They could have done more with the audio. They could have done more, is what I mean. I think it's kind of a weak effort. So I'm hoping all the other themes they've got are maybe a bit better, like the ones that perhaps aren't based on Mario and Zelda and Donkey Kong. They're just the normal ass themes. Maybe they're alright, or they've done more too, but I'm doubting it. But I won't find out until I miss up some more tickets. It's Tetris.
The Tetris. Cool. Zachary Burgess.
Well, while Rob has been going to cons and playing Tetris, he's been missing out on the Rocket League Halloween event.
Oh,
and also Rocket Pass, because that's still happening currently. But the Rocket League Halloween event has been happening. It's still going on for like another 2 or 3 weeks.
There's plenty of October left.
Yes, and November it goes into as well. But yeah, this year it's the Stranger Things crossover.
No.
Which, I don't know. I don't know shit about Stranger Things, obviously, but it seems like it's fairly well done. The way they've converted the Farmstead level into the Stranger Things world, it adds like a weird, like almost film grainy filter over it.
Oh, weird.
Right.
Which affects the lighting and actually kind of makes Blue Team kind of difficult to see sometimes, but it's kind of cool. It has like a weird soundscape as well to that level that affects the audio.
Is it like a different game mode?
No, it's just a skin on that level, really.
Oh, cool. So is that coming up in all the playlists then as well?
Yeah, even competitive.
Oh, weird.
And some of the unlocks are kind of nice. The Halloween, the Stranger Things themed things, the Stranger Things themed boost that makes the sound.
Okay, right.
That you would expect. It has like the red lines. So, it's kind of nice.
Gotta have that retro line.
That's been happening. Not much of an event, really. There does seem, I've probably just forgotten, but there seems to be more things this time. More different items to unlock, and you still get 10 golden pumpkins at the end as well. Or not at the end. You don't get them.
Well,
at the end of the list, there are 10 golden pumpkins that you can buy.
So if you've got all the stuff you actually want,
start spending all your candy corn, whatever, on those.
Any news on blueprints?
No.
Okay.
They still haven't made any more specific dating or anything about that. Or the new crate.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then really the only other thing that I did was I played some more Oxygen Not Included, because I finished off getting all the achievements.
Oh, okay.
I've successfully done all the very specific things you needed to do, some of which were actually kind of difficult, which was, interesting, I guess, for achievement hunting. There's the achievement where you're not allowed to use any farm tiles, like you're not allowed to farm plants in the normal way. Which is actually real easy now, because there's the animal that you can just give seeds to, and it just plants them in the ground, and they grow like much slower than farmed crops. But that's not really a problem. You can just get a lot of them. You just sort of have to plan ahead to leave like natural terrain for it to be able to plant the things in.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not that was relatively easy. You just have to survive a certain amount of time without using the farms. But then there's like I was questioning whether it would even be possible achievement of like eating a certain amount of meat before cycle 100. Because like initially I thought I could do both of these at once, because I was like, well, obviously if I can't farm plants, I may have this animal that can plant plants for me, but I could also just eat a bunch of meat, right? Because that's the other way to get food. So I was like, maybe I can do both of these achievements at once. Turns out I probably couldn't, because in order to get the meat one, you have to. I feel like it's much harder target to hit to make that amount of meat you have to eat in that time limit. So in the end, I had to use an external website that shows you like a preview of the map generation to find a very specific kind of map that kind of fitted. Because as far as I can tell, the only way you can realistically do this achievement is to immediately go to the space biome and capture the creature that lives there, because for some unexplainable reason that one specific creature that spawns in space is worth like 10 times as much meat as any of the other animals.
Right, so it'd be relatively easy to, if it's 10 times as much, then that would be like only 10 of them you have to eat, right?
Well, not quite that low, but yes.
Okay.
It's much easier to get enough meat.
Sorry, it's 100 cycles, not 100 meats.
No, yeah.
Right.
Which is like 400,000 calories or whatever.
Oh, right, okay.
I don't know what that translates to in number of individual meat items. But yeah, you have to. So I had to generate a map with using there's a world trait where it's called miscalculated pod location, where the pod can spawn like not in the middle of the map. So you have to like use that to force the pod to be slightly higher up. And there's one of the asteroids where the space biome kind of indents into the top of the map further than usual. So you combine those together to try and get space as close as possible.
Right.
And then just rush up there and try and capture one of those things as soon as possible, and then just start breeding it. Luckily, they're very easy to take care of as well. Like, they don't care about temperature or atmosphere, because obviously they live in space.
Yeah.
And they also don't really... You can also get away with like not actually feeding them, because weirdly, like, their reproduction rate, even if they're sad from like not being cared to, is enough that they'll always lay an egg before they starve. So you don't even have to worry about feeding them. It will just self-sustain. Although obviously that makes it slower to get the meat, because you're not creating more eggs and increasing the population. You're only getting 1-to-1. But yeah, I managed to pull that off eventually. So that was probably the hardest achievement. And then I did a few other bits and pieces, like the one where you're not allowed to use any of the like fossil fuels for a long time. You have to run purely on, well, you don't actually have to run purely on hamster wheels, because there's certain other types of power don't count, like the hydrogen generator. You can still use that. So if you're making your traditional electrolyzer making oxygen, which also makes hydrogen, you can still use the hydrogen generators there, and you're also still allowed to use the steam engine. So conveniently, since I was also doing that achievement on the map with all the volcanoes, I was like, oh, I can just make a volcano, just dump water onto this incredibly hot volcano rock and just make a steam power plant, basically.
Sure.
So got that achievement done. And yeah, I've done them all. Success.
S rank.
Yep. Which means I've actually got a better completion rating on Oxygen Not Included than Factorio, because of that one last damn Factorio achievement. The 30 million green circuits.
Hey, when does Satisfactory come out?
I don't know. I don't think they've still confirmed when they're leaving early access or when it's going to come out on Not Epic.
Right.
It should, if the original like theory about it being true, of it being a year exclusive on
whilst it's in early access or something.
Yeah, the year exclusive on Epic coinciding with the early access period. That will probably be about April or March. I forget when I played it, right? It was about that time.
You could check the episode video.
Yeah, you could.
Near there.
It was definitely around that time, so about the time everything else comes out.
Yeah, busy season.
And that was
I guess everything would want to get out of the way of next gen, right?
Well, I
to
mean,
some extent, Call of Duty won't. But...
I mean, all we said about the March period is that it's because it's the end of the financial, and everything that gets delayed just has to come out at that point.
Yeah, that's true. I always forget about that.
So yeah, and that was more or less all I did. There was some discussion about, I was talking to someone about city builders, because they wanted to play a new city builder, and they were talking to me about a game that I played for like an hour at some point, and I'd almost forgotten about, and I never mentioned it on the podcast either. Called Universe Sim, and I haven't gone back to play that, but I might do at some point. But yeah, that is like they were talking about whether that was a good one, and I was trying to think of how to even describe it because it was just like it's one of those.
Not a city builder.
Well, it's one of those kind of city builder games where it's like vague, where it's like it's not like a grid or anything. It's like you're kind of just and you don't really manage anything directly or whatever. I was trying to think of another example of a game that's even similar to that, which you'd think there should be tons of that I probably play.
It's just sort of putting things in places, but you don't necessarily get a numerical impact. You're just seeing what happens. And
well, there are still numbers to some extent, but it's not like as precise as even a Banished or whatever. Because Banished was the closest thing I could think of as a reference. Because you're not really directly managing people in Banished or anything.
Right.
You're not assigning specific people to specific jobs because the people don't really have stats or anything.
You're giving them the means.
Yeah.
And they sort themselves out.
Yeah. It's sort of like that, but even less. Because even Banished still has a grid.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we talked about that for a while, and then the topic of conversation turned back to Banished and like the mods for Banished, which I also tried at some point, but it seemed at the time like the mods for Banished were quite unstable. Something about that game just didn't really agree with modding that well. So who knows whether I'll end up playing one of those again, because that's the kind of thing that happens to me. There was something else I was thinking about playing, but I was thinking about a new game, but we'll see whether that actually happens. There's a game that's been popping up in my YouTube recommended videos because, as usual, people who play Watching Not Included in Factorio kind of lead me to the other games. But there's a new game. I think it's been in early access for a while, and I'm not sure whether it's actually come out or whether it's like a major patch or whatever. But it's another kind of similar game of colony building automation. I forgot what it's even called, which is helpful for this part of the podcast. But anyway, it's another automation game, but you're training like little robots to do things.
Like Automa Chef, is it?
No, that's the other one. That's the with the grabby arms making the food.
Oh, yeah.
I already played that. The demo of. It's a game. So this one, it seems like you build the little robots, but it has like one of those like drag and drop block programming languages.
Okay.
So you can like program the robot brains to do things in certain loops and whatever. So that seems kind of interesting, but I don't know if I'll get around to that. And if I can remember what it's called.
Remind us what it's called next time.
Well, if I play it, I will.
Okay. Mystery game.
It's a mystery.
So yeah, that's
that trap.
Pretty much it.
But where does it lead? Cool. I've been playing Zelda. It's kind of a known quantity, isn't it?
Yep.
So nothing really to say about that. It's good. It's like the game it was, and it looks nice. Yeah. And
still enjoying it. Haven't hit any major glitches then.
No, I mean, like I said last time, I almost got trapped inside someone's house at one point, and also the mini game for like with the grabber armor is a bit bullshit. I don't know how that seems to be totally different, or well, not. It seems to actually be like physics objects, and but you can imagine how annoying that is. But it's fine. You just keep doing it until you get it.
This is one of the things that was like added, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, like, it's not optional. Like, you need to get. I think you need an item from that for the trading quest, which is a cool part of the game. But it's fine.
The classic trade up.
Yeah. And there's a piece of heart in there too, I think, with various things. Yeah. It's good. I mean, dungeon design. It's pretty top notch.
Yeah, they had a lot of stalls for that at EGX, as you'd expect.
Yeah.
That animated intro there.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty good on the Game Boy, to be honest.
Well, I guess, yeah. For the time. But it's like, I wonder if it's the same animation studio that they get to do the Fire Emblem stuff. Like, it looks pretty similar.
Probably is. Yeah.
But then, hell, a lot of modern anime looks kind of the same.
I haven't played anything with anyone else these past 2 weeks, I don't think. I've seen my flatmate play a bit of Sekiro, and I'm not really convinced by that. I was hoping that would be the Dark Souls for me or whatever, but
Right, yeah, likewise. I still think if it was going to be one, I think Bloodborne is still top of that list if I were to try. Or maybe even the Surge. The Surge is possibly a bit more direction just because of its techno, rip arms off people and I'm going to attach them to my body and use them kind of thing.
And Ho was saying the same thing. Like she played, I think she got Sekiro and she played it, but she doesn't like it. Like she likes Dark Souls because she was saying she's more kind of, she likes to be more sort of patient and determined rather than aggressive or whatever. Right, yeah. I guess she's a bit more defensive, and you have to be aggressive in Sekiro. A bit more. I guess that's true of Bloodborne as well. It makes you be more aggressive. But I think Ho prefers tanking and being, so she prefers Dark Souls.
Fair enough. It's an interesting one, really. Whether when you think about it, like the Souls games are quite defensive and very deliberate, and and then you think about other character action games like Bayonetta and Devil May Cry, and actually like how little they offer in terms of defensive options. Oh yeah, really, it's like they're not about that at all, and it's like. And then the more you start thinking about it, it's like actually very few games are about the defense. Really, in that genre, in that sort of you're a guy. It's like maybe Monster Hunter is probably the closest, I guess, maybe, but that's quite aggressive as well, really.
God of War does it okay, but that's also aggressive, but it's got decent defensive options, like the shield is pretty good.
Sure, yeah, I think God of War has more mandatory defense, if you see what I mean. Like it's more like, oh, you need to be blocking right now rather than
or dodging,
or blocking it in a specific way.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. Like you kind of want to parry this, but this would be a good choice.
Yeah, I had that upgrade that like slows down time on successful parries, I think, or whatever.
Oh, right, yeah, because there was a projectile, wasn't it?
Or maybe it was a successful dodge. Yeah, caused a time bullet time.
Oh, thing. Right, you were wearing that armor, right? Because that was an armor ability, I think.
Yeah, some kind of armor
or rune
thing. Yeah. Man, that game's good.
Yeah, it is. There was a cool God of War T-shirt that I resisted buying because it was expensive.
Fair. Did you get any merch?
Shirt, which I don't wear. I came back with some Japanese feudal Japan style art, but with game reference. Like, wow, I got mainly because like I thought no one would like the fact that I mean, it's really cool. It's like what's it called? Uki Heroes or something is the website. Just look at their stuff. It's really cool. But I didn't pay those prices. I'll tell you that. It's sort of feudal Edo period Japanese art basically, right. But like with like they do some really cool stuff with how they twist video games into things. So like there's this cool one of like the Star Fox characters as samurai riding clouds. It's just sweet. It's really awesome. But the other ones, it's sort of like just cats eating, which is like it's super cute, and it's like unknown likes it and things like that. But it's all sort of done in that old school sort of wood print style, I suppose. There's some. There's a cool Mario one called Rickshaw Kart, and they did terrifying Pokemon battle as if it was depicted in that art style. And it's the Katamari one's really good as well. There's a ton of good stuff. Worth checking out. So yeah, I came back with some of that, and this Japanese inspired tabletop game that I think will be fun to try, which is based on their vending machine culture. So you get a little plastic vending machine and tiny little things to put in it and little shopping trays. And it's one of those like sets where there's a ton of different games you can play based on that stuff. But it was really cute and looked cool. Your phone vibration agrees.
Indeed. I think maybe. Yeah. Cool. Any videos coming up as we come to the end of this cast? Of
we've been on break.
Yeah.
We haven't been asked, which has actually worked out quite nicely for me because I haven't had a huge amount of time to actually.
Yeah, fair enough.
For when I could work on that stuff.
I've just been too tired. It's my problem.
Yeah, get yourself untired.
Kind of lowers the enthusiasm for videos.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll come visit sometime and do some videos with you guys.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
We should get you on more vids.
Yeah.
Maybe if we can figure out how to do the multimedia fusion side of the old Collision software games.
Oh God, can we get that Tanker game running that I made one level of?
Oh God, yeah. Or Memory Pure.
My
Yeah.
shitty attempts at Mode 7
Oh yeah.
Oh, your golf
that aren't
thing.
even games at all.
Does that even work? We'll see. Cool. Well, look forward to that sometime in the next year, maybe, listeners. But if you want more content,
Or
come
maybe
back
not.
in 2 weeks for another Saladcast.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah,
And so you
it's
should.
an option.
It's an option. Bye.